TMI. Confessionals of the Nerd Kind.
Bleh.
Bleh. Ah!
Welcome.
Jim, where'd you go?
What number is this episode?
Episode 334. 334.
334.
Damn you! You already stole my count joke.
Oh, you were going there?
I was going to ask you if you sat through the end credits of Nosferatu and realized that Count Orlok was actually played by the Count from Sesame Street.
Oh, I thought he was played by Omar Sharif in Dr.
Oh,
Zhivago.
that mustache, that voice. Yeah, man.
Yeah. So if you don't know already, Nosferatu.
You would think we're still in like October.
December, right? Because that's when this thing came out. Or maybe it was November. I don't know when Nosferatu came out.
It sure didn't drop when it should have during the Halloween season.
And once again, we're like 2 days before it drops on VOD release. So we
could have... bad? But that's not bad, right? More people get to watch it. And
more people get to watch it, and more people, can search for it online and hopefully pull us up.
Do you think that people are like, I see they talk Nosferatu. I'm going to wait until I see that movie, and then I'm going to come back and listen to this episode.
Well, listen to this.
Or do you just move on? Oh, yes.
The one person that emails us, Anthony, and we appreciate you, Anthony, out in California.
Yes, thank you.
Asked this past week if we would consider covering Nosferatu.
Well,
because he just saw it.
We did.
So wish granted, because we are.
Wow, that's the way we roll here. Yeah. I'm not really sure where he is in California, but I hope that you are safe, sir.
Yes.
I did want to take a note at the top of this episode because, I mean, everything that we talk about really does come out of Hollywood, and it is just heartbreaking seeing what's going on. So just hope anybody that's listening is safe. I hate being so flippant that you could say property can be replaced, but people have lost homes, lives. It's been chaos out there. So stay safe. So Nosferatu, this was not really on my radar list, but we saw it in the theater. We both saw it in the theater.
Yes.
So before it dropped on streaming.
Quite happy that you went out to the theater and saw
it. I was thrilled. We're going to get into this. We're going to mention David Lynch, who we just lost a couple days ago, and certain directors who really kind of have that a look and a vision, and you can pinpoint. You can look at their artwork and be like, "Wow, that's a Tim Burton. That is, that is a Lynchian style movie." And I think Robert Eggers is quickly establishing his own look and feel. And you see this atmospheric movie, and you're just like, you're whisked away, man. It is what movies are made for.
This is his most successful movie to date, and it's still performing. So
even better than The Northman, because boy, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. You know what? So Nosferatu, we've already established that. And on the back end, this is something you've been sitting on for 334 episodes.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite movies as a kid. Haunting memories.
Haunting. I'm 57 years old, and I've woken up going, there's one scene in this movie, and you know exactly. I'm like, holy shit! Jim was like 9 years old when he watched this movie, and it's a made-for-TV movie. Salem's Lot, if you don't know what we're talking about, 1979.
Yep,
made-for-TV movie. This is effing intense.
And even the warm, cuddly factor of having a recognizable face back then, such as David Soul, didn't help me at all. There was no consolation there.
So this guy was at the height of his career. He was Starsky and Hutch.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
2 years prior, he hit number one with a song on the American Top 40, Casey Kasem. I'm going to break my my little what else have we done? I found 2 channels on iHeartRadio that play nothing but old American Top 40.
Yes. I don't know if they still do, but the Sirius XM, if you have that, they have a 70s channel. They play entire 3-hour episodes of just, a top 40.
It's very condensed. There's no commercials. So iHeart run. They have two channels. They have one that's 70s and 80s, and then one that's 90s to 2000s, and they'll run an episode from the 70s, and then they run an episode from the 80s, and it jumps around like, from 72, then all of a sudden it's like, April of 85, and it's just fascinating. But
it is, because it's the top 40, obviously. So there's songs that maybe you haven't heard for decades that are like in the lower reaches of the countdown.
And they have interviews with these musicians who are like, this up and coming star, and this guy thinks that he's here for the long haul, and you're like, I don't know who this guy is, and I don't recognize this song, and I've never heard from him again. And then there's other things. It's like, new to the countdown, Wham's newest hit, Careless Whisper, and I'm like, holy shit, this is literally like the first time people are hearing the song. These things that are earworms in our brains, and it's like, it is such a throwback. And I always wonder, because they play the long distance dedication and all that stuff, and I'm like, imagine like you send out a long distance dedication, to the girl I met on the bus, and you never heard it, and then like 40 years later, you're listening to one of these shit, and that guy's talking about me. I could have had a connection with this guy. He fell in love with me, and I knew nothing about it.
In reality, it's probably some guy that's got taped together glasses who this girl didn't even acknowledge on the bus, but it was his entire life. Yes, I'd like to make a long distance dedication, Casey.
I came, and those letters are always so succinct. I'm like, there's no way most people, you listen to enough of them in a row, and you're like, I wonder how many of these are fake. These are like those letters that people write to Penthouse. It's like, I don't think it really went down like this.
But Casey just, took those and he made them all his own.
He's fantastic. I mean, whether it's 1972 or if it's like 2000, he sounds the same. Yeah, that's 40 plus years.
Have you ever heard the infamous outtakes of him swearing at his producers?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. About going out of some sad sack story right into like some uplifting song or whatever. Yeah. I can imagine.
I'd rather hear that actually on the top 40
all the outtakes.
Yeah.
So those, wow, we really went down a rabbit hole on that one. We're at the end of the episode. Thanks for listening. So anyways,
do we have news before we get into?
And I'm going to tell you right now, this is the most exciting news article that I've read in a very long time. And I guess I probably should have talked about it a couple weeks ago because it's been out there. But Christopher Nolan, who just dropped Oppenheimer last year. Big, huge hit, monster hit. Do you know what his next movie plan is? Are you aware?
No.
He is taking a stab at Homer's Odyssey.
Really?
Yes. So you're like, this thing's like 4,000 years old. Why do I want to watch this? I'm telling you right now, when I was in 10th grade, we had to read the Odyssey and the Iliad. And this is like comic book nerds, like Odysseus is like the original superhero, because if you're not familiar with this Greek epic poem, it's all about Odysseus and his crew coming back from the Trojan War, back to his home in Ithaca, and it's all these creatures that they encounter along the way, like mythological creatures that they have to battle. It's everything that any of those Sinbad.
Harryhausen,
that stop motion stuff. So you're talking like the Cyclops and Scylla and Charybdis, the Sirens. Circe at one point turns all of his crew into pigs. It's just epic. And in 10th grade, I was so entrenched in like the world of comic books. I was blown away by this. But what I did, my book report turned into a comic book. I turned it into like a visual.
You illustrated it?
I illustrated an encyclopedia of monsters. And so, dazzle them with some artwork and, some full color drawings of, the Cyclops.
And the teacher was like, after 40 minutes in, you can sit down now, Jeff. You can sit down now, Jeff.
Yeah, no, that's what I did. I think I did the same thing with Romeo and Juliet. I ended up taking like a whole scene and I turned it into like an epic comic page. So this is a huge undertaking. And you think about, this book is massive. And it's really like there's so much going on because you have Odysseus on the boat making his way back to Ithaca. You've got storyline going on of all kinds of crap that's going on in Ithaca that he's going to have to deal with when he gets back, but also there's flashbacks to the Trojan War. And I'm thinking to myself, if they can make Wicked a 6-hour event, this thing is easily a trilogy.
Now, I am sure there's going to be some impenetrable time travel subplot injected in, since this is Nolan.
Well, so it has Variety's reporting that the budget's $250 million, which now seems to be like standard for some of these big movies. But we've got Matt Damon, Tom Holland, Zendaya, Anne Hathaway, Lupita Nyong'o, Robert Pattinson, and Charlize Theron all on board. And I'm like, this is a big gamble. Can this guy really, revitalize the sword and sandal genre?
But the thing is that, in my old school brain, I don't want to see the Cyclops unless it's stop motion.
Yeah, you wonder how they're going to pull this off. But you look at like what he did with Interstellar. Not that there's like monsters in that, but the world. I don't know. I'm super excited. Nolan's another guy. We just mentioned, Eggers and even, David Lynch. Nolan, just whatever he touches, whether it doesn't matter what genre he's leaning into. I think he just has a very distinct and unique take and look. And I'm super excited to see.
Were there any spinning tops in Odyssey?
Spinning tops? Where are you going with this? Like
the end of Inception. The infamous.
Whether or not it was all in Odysseus's brain. Yes. Is that what you're implying?
Exactly, because he may have, a nightmare that, he's late for an exam at SUNY Ithaca and he's naked.
Wait a minute. I think you're putting too much of your... No. I guess we'll have to wait till next year to find out.
Yeah.
I don't know. So anyways, I'm super excited for this. I'm like all on board.
I thought you were going to say he's doing the next James Bond movie, because that's on his wish list as well.
I'd be on board for that.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then, as I mentioned, we did have to at least acknowledge that David Lynch. Now, this guy, his work never really spoke to me per se. It's very, again, a very unique take on certain things. But I think Twin Peaks is about as far as I got into the
the kind of guy that you need Cliff Notes. It's very open to interpretation, his work, so it doesn't lead you down a straight path.
No, even when he did Dune, I mean, it's pretty faithful adaptation, but I don't think it was successful. It wasn't a box office boon.
And this man had like the most fabulous head of hair, I think, in Hollywood.
Well, if you go back and you see, like when he was directing Dune, he did not have that hair. That hair is grown over the years, straight up. I think James Gunn, that's where he's going.
I think it's so iconic. You could actually go into a barbershop now and give me a David Lynch. And the barber's like, you can't do a David Lynch.
So anyway, so there you go. That's my news. I don't know if you came across anything you want to discuss.
No, nothing worthy.
Okay.
So let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. We did speak off camera about some of the trailers we watched. I guess I had no clue that Mel Gibson directed this Mark Wahlberg plane movie.
Yeah, and I just know that again because Regal shoves it down my throat with these trivia questions that they play before the movie. Who directed the upcoming Mark Wahlberg movie?
Yeah, who shaved his head because he's bald?
That I did not know, because they don't show any clips from the movie.
Oh, yeah, no, in the trailer he's wearing a hat, and then there's scenes where he's bouncing around and he's clearly got a bald head. And
well, that is Oscar-worthy. That's Oscar-worthy dedication right there.
So if you go to Google and you type in, is Mark Wahlberg bald, is the first thing that gives you an option for it. And I'm like, all right, I got to click on this. And it's
but that's somebody watching this trailer. Is Mark Wahlberg really bald?
Well, that's like, when you see Nicolas Cage in one of those last movies and you're like, all right, is that really, listen, they can do some amazing things with makeup and hair pieces now. So you're like, I wonder if that's really what he looks like after all this time. But no, he shaved his head for the role.
So there's that, right? So there's that Companion, which is
somebody has broke their sex doll.
Well, the thing is that the trailer starts where you're not sure, it's not clear that the lead actress here is a robot, her character.
Right.
And then that's revealed later in the trailer. I'm like, is that supposed to be a twist in this movie? Because
they
it's ruined.
They ruined it. Right. Wait a minute. He was dead all along? Yeah, too bad we didn't already cover Ex Machina, because that would have been a nice little pairing there.
That would have been, yeah.
Yeah. So that looks interesting.
28 years later.
28 years later. Boy, we are just going out on a limb here. So are they trying to build out like a Planet of the Apes series? Like, because we went 28 days later, 28 weeks later, and now we're 28 years, or is there another one in between there somewhere? Like, this would be the third in the quote unquote franchise. So it's not like we had 28 months later.
No, missed opportunity there.
Like 28 months. Who's counting?
So there's a lot of scuttlebutt about this movie out there because 28 weeks later ended with the suggestion, well, it was more than a suggestion, you were shown footage that the infection has spread from the UK into major cities around the world.
Okay.
So, like, the end of that movie made it seem like the world was on the verge of collapse.
Oh.
But in this movie, it is still sequestered to just the UK. So everybody's like, well, what are they just going to ignore the ending of 28 weeks later? So I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Oh, I guess that's the hinge on the rub.
Yeah.
Did we lie to you? Come find out.
And there was a lot of talk that Cillian Murphy was going to reprise his role as Jim from the original movie, although we now know that he is not in this movie at all.
Okay. Well, I would think that there's got to be other stories to be told.
Well, that's what I'm hearing, is that this is there's possibly a planned sequel or a couple of sequels to come out of this. So he may be back later on.
Oh, okay. This is like a whole Walking Dead world now.
It might be, but we do have Aaron Taylor Johnson in this movie.
So I have thrown so much shade at this guy because he just seems to be everywhere, but he shows up in Nosferatu. And I'll tell you right now, I apologize.
Although he is heavily clothed, probably to hide his rippedness. So,
well, you can't upstage Count Orlok.
And, nobody back then is going to look like that. They didn't have Gold's Gym that you could go to.
No, there's no. You got to lift all those gold bars.
Because I'm sure he probably did this in Craven, very close together.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because I actually stumbled across Bullet Train was on TV the other day, and we watched about 20 minutes of it. And I'm like, all right, this guy can't do any wrong. He's all over the place and fine. He's playing different characters. I kind of like him now.
So those who remember, and, it's readily available, so even generations past ours have seen it. We've covered this movie. Those that are very familiar with Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula will find a lot of familiarity here, not just because it's based on the same story. Stylistically, even the soundtrack, when this movie opens, you hear a music box, which heavily features in Coppola's Bram Stoker's. So I got that feel immediately.
Oh, good. I'm not alone, because I'm telling you right now, there's a scene where Thomas makes his way to the castle, and I'm like, this is a shot-for-shot remake of Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
But again, it's the source material, right? But they're covering all the same beats that movie did.
And I don't think that that's bad. So if you want to go back and listen to that episode, because we also, so Bram Stoker's Dracula was episode 298. And we also covered Last Voyage of the Demeter, which also shows up in this movie.
Yes.
So, yeah, no, you're right. This is based on Bram Stoker's Dracula. And the 1922 Nosferatu.
Yes, which in itself was based on Bram Stoker's Dracula, the novel.
Actually sued.
Yes, very interesting backstory to this. Because Nosferatu, the film, is Dracula. Mm-hmm. But to avoid copyright issues, the German filmmakers changed the names to protect the innocent. Or in this case, maybe the not so innocent.
Yeah.
And this is, an infamous film. This is one of the hallmarks of cinema, directed by F.W. Murnau. Silent film. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I've only have seen it all the way through recently. And it is, something to behold.
I know of it. It's very iconic, especially the Orlok's silhouette, the face. I've not watched the entire thing. I've seen scenes from it. I know of it.
Yeah.
And I think he does a fantastic job of paying homage to that movie in particular.
But yeah, so it was made with German characters for a German audience.
Right.
So it opened there to much fanfare, and word eventually did get back to Bram Stoker's widow, Florence Balcombe, and she was not having any of this.
She got her blood-sucking lawyers involved.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They
And
go
to the
after
point where she insisted that she was sent every copy so it could be destroyed.
Yeah, that's why it was like so hard to see for so long. It's like, oh yeah, they're all.
But yeah,
stockpiled.
she didn't quite get everything. So there
No.
were still copies out there.
I did see that that movie was banned in Sweden for excessive horror all the way up until 1972.
Really?
Yeah. I'm like, wow, that's some scary crap.
Werner Herzog remade it with Klaus Kinski as Nosferatu, but confusingly, the character was called Dracula in that movie and not Count Orlok. They used all the names from
how'd they
Dracula.
get away with that? Did they buy the rights?
Because it fell into, by that time it was in public domain, Dracula.
All right. So when did Bram Stoker's Dracula drop?
1897.
1897. That just rolled off your tongue, by the way.
Well,
Now-
I have it just because I have all the information up in front of me on the screen.
Just tell me you knew that off your top of your head. But isn't the story that Mary Shelley and Bram Stoker wrote their respective stories at the exact same time?
There's a movie based on that as well, starring Gabriel Byrne, and the name of it escapes me now.
So fascinating, anyways, that this character has gone back that long, and this movie starts with a bang. And we will talk about
Gothic. I'm sorry. Gothic is the name of that movie.
All right. That makes sense. We're immediately introduced to Lily Rose Depp's character, Ellen.
Yes. Originally supposed to be played by Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah, I saw that. Harry Styles and Anya Taylor-Joy were originally cast in this.
So I assume as Thomas and
Right.
What's her name in the movie?
Ellen.
Ellen. That's right.
Yeah.
I kept writing down Mina in my notes because I didn't know what
Mina.
her name was.
Well,
in this.
yeah, right. Well, that's the same thing with so Nicholas Hoult, another guy who's everywhere. He's going to show up soon as Lex Luthor in James Gunn's Superman.
Yes, and not to throw shade on the great KR, I think Nicholas Hoult does a tad better than Keanu Reeves did.
But again, right? You're like, is his name Thomas? Is his name was Keanu Reeves' character Thomas?
No. In Dracula he was Jonathan.
Yeah, and I will say again, this guy is everywhere, but he carries this movie for the first half, and then his character disappears for quite a while.
Yeah, as is in the source material in Bram Stoker's Dracula, the 92 version, and because he's got to make his way back.
Sure.
To, in this case, to Germany and not to London to save his beloved.
Yeah, I don't think you need to go from Germany to Transylvania via boat, though. Like, were they in London? Were they established it first off?
No, this takes place in Germany. So they were never in London. He goes to the Carpathian Mountains on horseback.
Yeah, that's a long ass ride right there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're introduced to Ellen, who's being ravaged.
But in a dream sequence.
But I get the impression that this is what happened to her because she has a pretty backstory with Orlok.
Which is fascinating because this is where they deviate. So the relationship between Ellen and Nosferatu, this is where the Nosferatu story deviates from the Dracula story, where these two things are tied together and Ellen takes it upon herself to sacrifice herself to kill the creature. So the dream sequences are set up that Ellen has connected with this thing long before Thomas ever goes to the Carpathian Mountains.
Yeah, because I got the impression that he gets this new job and immediately he's assigned to go and file these paperwork with Orlok, and we're met with his boss, Her Knock. Is that the guy's name? Anyways, you find out that he's like a servant of Orlok. And so it's like, all right, so this is a long scam to just Orlok to get back in touch with Ellen.
Yeah.
No, we're just going to send her brand new husband over there.
Thomas is going to Orlok's castle on the pretense that Orlok wants to buy property in Germany. So he's got a contract to be drawn up.
I heard he was eyeing up the Marsden house, the old Marsden house in Maine.
But before he gets there, he goes on horseback and he goes through a village. So he interrupts the ceremony. I'm like, wouldn't these villagers think that, okay, maybe we'll hold off on this until this guy is gone? Do they think he's not going to wake up in the middle of their, ceremony where they sacrifice the virgin or whatever it is that they're doing?
I felt like this was like the scene in American Werewolf in London where they stumble into the slaughtered lamb, and they're all just kind of like, all the locals are like, "What are you doing here? You really shouldn't go to that. Don't go to that castle.
Yeah, don't go to that castle." They all seem very concerned as he's coming in, and all the young girls of the community are giggling. They're all touching his clothes as he's walking into the village.
Fresh kill. They know that. Listen, maybe Orlok will leave them alone.
And then suddenly, the alpha male is there and starts laughing at the guy. and then everybody else starts laughing. I'm thinking not because they think that this guy is ridiculous, but just because when he laughs, we laugh because it's funny.
Yeah, we all know what's going to happen to this kid. This kid's sitting here on a one-way mission.
As I said, he goes to sleep that night after everybody that he comes into contact with tells him to not go up there, but not in a language that he can understand, so he doesn't know.
Well, I don't think you need to understand what they're speaking, but I mean, when the old lady's like friggin', blessing him and spitting, you're like, oh, this is not going to end well. Mm-hmm. You should probably turn around right now. Just leave it in his mailbox. He'll sign it and send it back to you.
So a noise wakes him up, and they see the young virgin on horseback, naked, and all the townsfolk are surrounding her, and they're riding her out to the vampire's grave.
It's like a sacrificial, like it's outside of the castle grounds.
Yes.
I don't know.
So, and then they plunge the sword into the vampire's dead body, and then suddenly they see that Thomas is watching them, and then he wakes up. Was it a dream? Was it not? We don't know.
He's got dirty feet.
But everybody's gone. The entire village is gone.
And they took his horse.
And the
horse you rode in on. So no breakfast? Yeah, that's a worst bed and breakfast. Worst bed and breakfast ever.
So he's got to walk the rest of the way to the castle.
Yeah. And you get the impression that it's a long way. Like he's going to be away for weeks.
And when he gets there, just as we said, he makes it to the woods surrounding the castle, and then the riderless carriage comes up, just like in Bram Stoker.
This is such a fantastic scene. I'm going to talk endlessly about Eggers' approach because it was filmed in color, and then in the processing, the post ops, they stripped out the red, so you get like these muted blues and very kind of atmospheric, but. This is a fantastic scene where this carriage just shows up and all of a sudden he's drawn inside of it.
And he's floated into it, just like Keanu is in the Coppola version. Yeah. I was just waiting for that ring of fire that they drive through, but they don't have that.
No, he didn't do that one, no.
Here.
Yeah.
So he shows up to the castle, and what is the first thing that Orlok says? It's past midnight. You're late.
Right. Sorry. Yeah, well, I mean, Thomas wants nothing to do with this anyways. He just wants to do right by his the love of his life.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be gone for a couple of days. I'll be back.
And meanwhile, we are cutting back to Ellen, who is staying with her best friend, who is played by Charles Xavier's sister from Deadpool here.
Oh, I didn't pick up on that. Emma Corrin. Yes, You're right. That is exactly who that is. Anna.
And she's got two girls that spend the entire movie complaining that there's a monster under their bed, but are they ever listened to? No,
I was waiting for the two of them to show up in the hallway going, come play with us.
Yeah.
That never happened.
And so the best friend's husband is played by Aaron
Taylor. Taylor Johnson.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Friedrich.
Yeah.
And again, a very understated character, but he does a damn good job. I'm going to say everyone in this movie does a fantastic job. And we haven't even talked about Bill Skarsgård yet.
No, because he's just showing up.
Yeah. This entire movie, like right off the gate, like you get that opening sequence with Ellen, I'm sorry. And it's like it jolts you. You're like, what? Because she's having like these epileptic fits, which I found out she studied some Japanese performance art known as Buto. So that's her doing all those gyrations and that weird body contortion that's going on. That just is very unsettling. And they're like, she's got some bloodletting to do. It's like, I think she's possessed. There's more going on here, kids.
When Thomas comes back, the convulsions don't stop, but she adds white vomiting to the convulsions. White foam comes out. At some point, Thomas should be like, you're a little bit too high maintenance. I think I am.
I don't know what I bought into here.
Slowly backing out of the room. Have a nice life.
Honey, I'm home. Ew. The buildup in this is fantastic.
And then once you get to that naked boss scene, who is cackling madly in the office, right? It's the office. It's not even at home.
Oh, no.
He does this.
You're right. Yeah, where he's got like the pentagram drawn on the ground and he's, yeah. Knock is, so you realize pretty quickly that he is working with Orlok.
The camera slowly pans over and everybody's still at their desks. This is not a safe working environment.
You're right. What's he doing? Shh, just go back to work. So, but you're right. This is the scene where now Thomas is in the castle. And this, again, is very reminiscent of that Francis Ford Coppola scene where Jonathan is confronted with Gary Oldman's Dracula.
Yeah, there's lots of shadow work here, which was in the original German silent film.
Sure.
Which carried over to Coppola's, and then it carries over here.
Yeah,
as
and
well.
it's fantastic. And this is the one thing. So we talk about this very iconic silhouette of Nosferatu and the weird goblin face with the two front teeth and the elf ears. And here, Orlok has this monstrous Romanian mustache.
Yeah, Omar Sharif.
Yeah, but you're like, you got to lose the mustache. You got to lose the mustache, and then you'll be complete. And you kept waiting for like fall off, and it doesn't. And Egger said, I went back to the original material. If you read the original Bram Stoker Dracula and you see illustrations in that book, he had a mustache. Every man in Romania had a mustache. You can't, if you want to treat him as a nobleman or whatever, but he's just so larger than life. But those scenes with Ellen, and you see his shadow on the wall or you see his shadow in the curtains, it is the 1922 silhouette. He does not have a mustache in those scenes. The one thing about this Bill Skarsgård, and we've seen him like to me, he's like the new Andy Serkis. This guy is just showing up. We've seen him as Pennywise, and he's all but buried in this makeup here. And he does this thing with his throat. And I read that he studied Mongolian throat singing. We talked recently. I went to go see Iron Maiden, and their opening band was this Mongolian throat singing band called The Who. And they talk like this. And he's got this weird voice thing going on, which is very unsettling. And you really kind of just see him in silhouette. You don't really get a sense of the details, but he's larger than life.
Now, let me tell you about a mustache. You've got to maintain a mustache.
I don't think this guy maintains anything.
Well, if you don't maintain a mustache, you have a beard. And I can't see this guy shaving.
True.
His face is already decomposing. How do you shave around it to maintain that mustache?
That is, yeah, there is some work because there's no one else there. It's not like he has a hairstyle.
The hair is growing, hence the mustache.
Right. He's got
and does he have a nose trimmer?
My guess is no. There's probably some serious nostril hair coming. Maybe that's all that is. That's not even a mustache. That's just nostril hair.
But maybe it is. Maybe it is.
We all know that's the worst thing between the ear hair and the nose hair as you get older. So.
But we get Thomas cuts himself just like Keanu does.
Yep,
although in this he's with a bread knife, not shaving.
No.
But that drives Orlok crazy. And so then he bumps and grinds on top of him in front of the fire, sucking blood from his chest.
Did you read the backstory of this after that shot? Eggers came up to Holt and he's like, how was it? You know, how he goes, his prosthetic penis was touching my leg. I could feel it. So after the filming, he mailed the penis to Holt as a gift. He's got it on his wall. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, they don't shirk on the Wang Doodle, as Joe Bob likes to call it, in any Robert Eggers movie.
I think you have to sign a contract that you have to have.
I still have trauma from Willem Dafoe's scene in the Northman. Thankfully.
And when he shows up in this movie, it just takes it to another level.
Yeah. I forgot he was in it.
What was fantastic, I'm like, is he doing like a Mel Brooks impersonation? Like, I'm like, what is going on here? But he is fantastic. Yeah, I can't say enough about everyone involved in this movie. I was blown away by it. I really, and I took my friend Frank and I'm like, oh, I don't know. This might not be up his alley. But Frank even walked. He stayed awake. That right there is a screaming review.
But I have a note here that goth kids everywhere are going to take this movie as their own. Just like back in 1992, everybody loved Coppola's Dracula. I think this is this generation's Coppola's Dracula.
Well, I mean, Keanu was coming off Bill and Ted. He had a little bit of a cult following. I don't know. Are kids following Nicholas Hoult?
But you know, when I say goth kids, it's like especially the character of Ellen. You know, I am embracing death. I had a nightmare where I was marrying everyone and my family was dead, and I loved it.
No. She is definitely easy on the eyes, and I thought again she was great, and I don't know what else I've seen her in.
She was in the only thing I know of her from. She had a very small part in Tusk.
Yeah, less said about that one, the better.
She was a clerk in a convenience store.
Okay, right.
It's Lily Rose Depp, because Johnny Depp is in that movie, and Kevin Smith's daughter together behind the counter of a convenience store. So
interesting.
But it was a small part, so you don't get a sense of her as an actor from that movie. So surprise. But Orlok wants to sign this document that Thomas has brought immediately. And
he's waited like 5 years for this kid to show up.
But it's all in another language, right? So Thomas doesn't read it.
Doesn't know what he's signing. Yeah, that's 101 right there, son.
What Thomas is actually signing are the rights to his girlfriend away. Are they married or are they just engaged?
No, they had just gotten married.
So he's signing the rights of his. Is that even legal? Yeah. Can you do that? First of all,
he's Count Orlok. He can do whatever he wants.
So my big question going forward in this movie. Wait, does he own this house then?
Right. He could have just. It just seems like an awful lot to get the end result. You want the girl. You've already possessed her. You're in her head. Why do you need to sign over a deed to? And once again, you don't see how he makes it onto the boat. He puts himself in a box full of dirt and then just says, UPS, please pick up.
Because he had even though he says, all my servants have gone away, once Thomas wakes up and he's trying to escape, there's nobody there.
No. You think you would have heard the delivery man show up and, we're here to pick up a giant crate.
Yeah, no, it's the guys from Salem's Lot.
Those two idiots. We're going to talk about those because they couldn't even move that thing inside the truck. How'd you get it down to the basement?
I don't think that crate could have fit through that basement door.
No, I know. That's the other, Well, it did. Yeah, so now all of a sudden he's on the boat when we get the last voyage of the Demeter. We get that whole sequence where he's just slowly killing off people on the ship as he's making his way back. So he's making his way back to Germany the same time that Thomas is on foot. Yeah. Making his way back. And they basically
again, in a very dreamlike sequence that, again, mirrors Coppola's movie, Thomas gets out on a ledge and falls very slow motion-y into fog. And then he's in a moat. And then he's picked up by a group of nuns who nurse him back to health.
He's good. And then he says, I'm going to have none of that. Takes their horse.
Was that a pun? I'm going to have none of that.
Oh, sorry. It's a bad habit. Nothing. Crickets.
That's a bad hat. Oh, okay.
Oh, wow. That was like a little grenade.
That took a long time.
Yeah,
that took a long time.
Thomas comes back But he's like on death's door, literally like falls off the horse right in front of his house. But Orlok is already, so the ship crashes. He kills everybody on the boat, the ship. The ship crashes. And now we have literally thousands of rats carrying the Black Plague, running amok. And I read that they had upwards of 5,000 live rats on set.
It looked like it.
Yeah. And you would think that this is all like just CG. They're just CG rats. And that's not the case. They had like these elaborate plastic shields to keep certain rats in certain areas, but they had like a rat wrangler.
Now, you said in the popcorn bucket, they actually have rats.
Oh, yes. So when Thomas does find his sarcophagus, immediately I'm like, oh, look, it's the Regal tin. Which I did grab one and send it to my friend Jess out in Minnesota. And that was when we were there for Sonic. And when we went back to go see this movie, they were already sold out. But they do have, there's like graphic imprints of rats inside the tin when you open it up.
Yeah,
just
one live one in with all the
rat
fake
droppings.
Yep.
Yeah.
By this time in the movie, when Thomas is escaped and Orlok is making his way by boat, the boss has gone completely insane and is now in an asylum/prison. And he's pulling an Ozzy Osbourne on the pigeons.
He's eating the heads. That was actually a pretty well done scene because you're like, that looks like he really just bit that thing's head off.
Yep.
I wonder if it was like an animatronic or something. It did not look CG in any way, shape, or form.
So Orlok not only has telepathically reached out to Ellen, but he's telepathically reached out to this guy. We have Renfield in the Dracula story, who was the previous real estate agent who went before Jonathan Harker did. And that's how he's like the slave to the master. But this guy has been telepathically messaged by Orlok to put this all in motion, send Thomas to him, to draw up the contract, to give him his wife. So it's all on the up and up. He wants to be very legal about it.
Very, very convoluted plan. But that's funny you mentioned. So Nicholas Hoult played Renfield in the Renfield movie, and we covered that as well. And I'm like, this guy's not straying too far from.
You're right about that.
Yeah, he was episode 280, by the way, Renfield.
So this is where Defoe comes into it. So he's the Van Helsing of this movie, although he is not. What's his character's name?
His name is Professor Albin Eberhard von Franz. And he is spectacular. He is shot out of a cannon because immediately they have to go, oh, I've got this. Was it Friedrich? No, who's the other guy that?
It was the doctor who was.
The doctor. I did not write down that actor's name.
Who was trying to figure out what the problem was with Ellen, the medical doctor.
Right. Yeah, we just keep putting leeches on her and sucking her blood out. No, that guy's coming to do that.
And then he's in one scene, he's like, I do know this guy. Everybody thinks he's nuts.
Right. Let's go talk to him.
Yeah, you may too. Just be wary.
He's been discredited.
Yeah.
He's kind of wacky about the occult.
But he's into the occult. And David Soul says almost the same exact thing in Salem's Lot. And you're wondering in that movie, well, who's this guy that knows exactly how to kill vampires?
Yeah, here's my problem with this whole... so there's a book that clearly tells them how to deal with this creature and how to kill it, complete with diagrams. And I'm like, so that means that this has happened before. But clearly it doesn't work because he's still around. Here we go. I got a manual right here. This is going to tell us exactly how to get rid of him.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah,
and Von Franz, just like Anthony Hopkins, is chewing up scenery. Defoe is chewing up scenery.
Oh, he is chewing.
He's like he's playing like a lovable old crazy coot. Yeah.
He's fantastic. I loved him. He tends to kind of be the same guy in every movie, but this is just he ramps it up because everyone's playing this seriously, as they should. They don't know what's going on. This Orlok is just on the loose now. He's gunning for her.
And meanwhile, so Defoe finally sees Ellen, and there is like an exorcist-worthy scene where it's established that this thing is a demon that's possessing her.
Yeah, he was pretty quick to surmise that, oh, no, she's possessed.
And he's like, by a demon. Oh, do you mean that, metaphorically? No,
a demon. A demon. Yeah, we got work to do, boy. Right. It's like, okay. and they're just gonna go to the castle and torch it. And so he wants to buy this other house.
But again, did he actually buy it, or was that
Right.
contract all about the wife?
Girl. I don't know. Maybe
He's
there
a
was like
squatter. That's all he is.
There was a subtext at the bottom. Oh yeah, by the way, I also bought that house.
Yeah.
And
But he says at one point, Defoe does, they have a couple of options. Either Ellen can sacrifice herself, or they put him back in the ground that he was buried in, which they never even address. They're yeah.
You would think that would have been the dirt that he was shipped in.
I guess.
I don't know. Yeah. But it's like this is like Scooby-Doo level, let's split up kind of a thing. Yeah.
But there's a great scene though when Orlok, physically finally meets Ellen for the first time. And you see the shadowy hand going across the town.
Yeah. I think that's straight out of the 22 version.
Until it stops on the house that she's in.
There she is.
But she's still staying with Aaron Taylor Johnson and his wife and those two girls, right?
Yeah, well, they're going to have a couple vacancies in a minute. So
he comes to see her. He says, I'm going to give you 3 nights. I'm going to kill everybody that you love. And I'm saving Thomas for last.
Yeah, again, you've traveled all this way and now you're like, I'll give you 3 more days.
So if you want to save Thomas within 3 nights, then you're going to agree to be with me. So he starts with Charles Xavier's sister,
yes,
who he kills, and that's a horrific scene when he kills the 2 girls.
Poor Friedrich. Friedrich's like, get out of my house. So people are nothing but bad luck. Get out. Can you go home now?
First, I loan you money, which you haven't paid me back yet. Right. And now you're freeloading.
And where'd my horse go?
Yeah.
Oh, some gypsies took it. What?
You got to leave. Yeah, you got to go back home.
Oh, they belong to the nuns. Yep. I got to ship that back. Yeah. Friedrich gets the raw end of the deal here. This poor guy. Yeah.
I was expecting at least a little bit of a fight between Aaron Taylor Johnson and Nosferatu, but
no, you would have liked. Yeah, I know it would have. It would have ended well, anyways. It didn't end well, but.
But yeah, there's a lot of romantic dialogue, romantic / angsty dialogue between Orlok and Ellen. Yeah. You are my affliction. You woke me and stirred me from my grave. And again, you could just see some kid with a Hot Topic purchase T-shirt saying this to his girlfriend.
You are my density. But this thing, it's again, it just builds. And then
Orlok says to her, "Oh, your husband? Well, he just signed you over to me."
It's like, wait a minute, can I see that paperwork? No, I left it back in my hotel room. Come with me. I don't like your mustache. Can you shave that thing off? Yeah, it's a beautiful crescendo, and it's a fantastic buildup of. They think they're taking him out. They're catching the castle on fire. It's at the other end of town. They realize he's already back with Ellen, and that she is. She went with Plan B. No, I'm just gonna sacrifice myself.
Yes, and you find out towards the end of the movie how they're even connected in the first place. And even the explanation is very ambiguous. When she was little, she wanted tenderness, I guess, that she wasn't getting from her parents. So she called out, "He is my shame, my melancholy." And then Defoe at one point says that these demons reach out for those with animalistic tendencies. She didn't really seem particularly animalistic until he was taking her over. So
they're made for each other.
I guess so. Yeah.
I don't know. I think maybe she just made the wrong choice with Thomas. Yeah.
But it's interesting in that she was calling out to him in this narrative, right. Yeah. Where in the source material in Coppola's version as well, that Dracula's trying to connect with his dead wife. And that Mina is like a dead ringer for his dead wife. So he is manipulating her during that movie. Where in this movie, it's Ellen called out to Orlok. So it's reversed here. So then she realizes because of this book that has it all written out, there's even a photo, an
Right. Like I said,
illustration, not a
there's like
photo, an
there's like,
illustration
no, it's like a step-by-step instruction.
that looks exactly what the final scene is in
Yeah.
this movie.
This is like it's like IKEA put it together yourself. And, oh, that's how I got to get rid of it.
So she's got to willingly sacrifice herself, like at daybreak as the cock crows.
Boy, if I was going to be spewing white stuff out of my mouth, that would have been the time because he is horrific. But yeah, keep him in love's embrace as the sun comes up.
Yep. And that's what she does.
Yeah.
All the menfolk, Defoe and Thomas, not Aaron Taylor Johnson because he has the plague and he dies on top of
his wife's
coffin.
His kids, yeah.
They go to Dracula's house to stake him. Thomas isn't aware that his wife needs to sacrifice herself, but Defoe is. So is he just kind of leading Thomas away from that? I think he is.
I got the impression that, we're just going to distract you while she takes care of the deed.
So it's the crazy naked boss that's in the coffin at Dracula's house. And they kill him anyway, right?
Yeah,
they kill him, right?
They do stake him. And I think he was very thankful.
So then there's like, for lack of a better word, a love scene between Orlok and Ellen.
Yeah.
Where she gets naked and he doesn't bite necks. He bites chests here in this movie.
Yeah, well, that is, listen, in that regard, he's doing the right thing.
So the question is, would the sunlight have killed him anyway? Or did she have to be there drawing him into it? Yeah.
The world may never know. He didn't dissolve.
No, he just became emaciated.
Yeah, well, he was already gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like the other Gary Oldman, famously, he goes from like ancient bunhead to dashing young count. But I don't think this guy ever changed.
No.
He was still decomposing.
No. Yeah, well, you figure it doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that blood can only sustain you for so long. But you would think it's like, all right, well, there he is. He's laying dead on top of my ex-wife. Maybe we should chop his head off just to be sure. No, let's just leave him. Yeah. I'm sure it won't come back where we have to use this book again. It's not like they're going to make a sequel or anything. I did see there was one IMDb review that christened this is Nosferatu. Like somebody didn't like it.
But my question is, apparently Nosferatu never had a copy of that book that Willem Dafoe had. Because like you said, an IKEA instructional. It's
I said, it's like, who wrote this? And clearly,
hey, there's a drawing. Work. There's a drawing of me in this book.
Right? I know. This is all I got to do right here. Professor Alban got an adventure, and Thomas got to look for a new wife and a new best friend. Oh no, that was her best friend, Anna. Well, now
I think he'll do fine. I think Thomas will do fine.
But you still have 5,000 rats with the bubonic plague running around.
This is true.
I don't really think that
it would have been nice to have wrapped that up. Say, like, once they kill the master, then they all die.
Let's call the rat catcher. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Chop off his head first. Okay. All right. Cut. Scene.
But yes, it is. This thing
is the body. You don't bury it.
No, you don't. Well, maybe now that he's there, now you have to go and bury him in the earth that he came from, or whatever they said.
I don't know. I think I'm chopping him up into tiny little pieces.
Breathtaking to behold, to be sure. This movie.
It is gorgeous. It is so atmospheric, and I will tell you the sets. So there's a scene early in the movie when we're first introduced to Ellen. She wakes up and Thomas is off for his first day of work. And it's just the camera's following him. He walks out of the house and he's got his very uncomfortable wool clothing on, and he's just making his way through the streets. And it's just like, it's so visceral. Like you have to assume that they built this set out, this entire cobblestone street, and there's people walking around and there's street vendors and whatever. And it's just like, it's tangible.
And, with everything being filmed in either black and white or like blue hues.
Well, like I said, basically what they did is that, from what I understand, they filmed in color and they filmed during daylight. But what they did is they then in post-production stripped out the reds and the yellows. So you only have the blue hues left. So you get that very cool. And there are sequences where you really feel like you're watching a black and white movie. And then it'll cut to like, the poor little girls being carried through the streets in their coffins. And all of a sudden there's like color again. And you're just like, you're almost like startled by it.
Obviously, blue is a color of death, right? So there's that uneasiness, and this thing takes place in the winter, so it makes you cold watching it.
So yeah, Christmas movie, discuss, because it is clearly Christmas time.
Well, it's counter programming, right? That's the definition of counter programming.
Yeah. Hey, what'd you get under the tree? Rat with the bubonic plague. I got one too. Yay! Have
you named yours yet?
Yeah, I call him Death.
I call mine Loogie.
I will say I was thrilled to see this in the theater. And again, watching it at home is, everyone's got a 70-inch television now with surround sound. But seeing it in the theater, I was thrilled. And I had to go like last week because I was afraid it wasn't even going to be. Yeah,
showing. I took the risk. I just saw it yesterday. I took the risk.
It's crazy. So
how many people were in your theater?
I'm going to say probably about a dozen or so. And it was like a 10:50 screening on a Saturday morning.
Yep.
So
yeah, mine was 12:30 on a Saturday.
Okay.
And I had about 10 people in the theater with me.
Okay. I was happy to see that many, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a very niche. Again, you can't help but compare it. And there are straight up homages to Coppola's Dracula. That one, Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, leans a little bit more into like the comic book aspect of it. I'm trying to remember now, like, the colors were much more vivid and vibrant, and there were scenes, a lot of reds in that movie. This is very atmospheric. If you are familiar with Robert Eggers, The Lighthouse and The Northman, The Witch I've never seen, but I think that's like his first movie that really kind of like put him on the map.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
But
either.
These movies all have like a very distinct look and feel and atmosphere to them.
But this one was apparently a passion project for him, that he was planning on doing this as his second movie. And it just got pushed back and pushed back.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it shows, I don't know if you read this, but he actually directed a high school version of this, and he designed all the sets when he was in high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'm like, all right, so yeah, passion project. This has been sitting in this guy's brain for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it looks like he had, studio was like, do what you got to do, man. Just bring it out. So fantastic. I said it before. I don't think there's a single weak link in this at all. Everyone steps up their game. Lilyrosedepp I thought was fantastic, but Willem Dafoe just takes it to the next level.
Yeah,
and I think he's needed. He's needed to kind of lighten, because it's very heavy-handed. But Skarsgård is just like, he's just buried in this role, and you think we'll just get some guy in a costume and he'll run around and go Bleh, and that's not what he does at all here.
I mentioned last episode, that thankfully I had seen no production stills of
they did a good job of hiding him
in costume. From what I was reading about the movie, the very little that I did read was that he was very disturbing in this movie. Like,
sure.
That he was extremely frightening. So I was apprehensive when he shows up. And then I'm like, interesting choice. Mustache.
Yeah, I know. The mustache is it does take you a minute. And again, after doing some research, I'm like, all right, well, you're going back to the source material. You're being true to the world that this character, this nobleman lived in at the time. But
right.
You want to see that mustache removed because you want to see that iconic Nosferatu silhouette.
Which you kind of get in our next movie, Salem's Lot.
Yes. Yeah. Very much so.
This is sumptuous. It's disgusting in places.
Yes. All the above.
Beautiful. I still prefer Coppola. I
Okay.
still prefer the 92 Dracula
Okay.
to this if given the choice, but I can see how, again, what I said before, this is going to be embraced by this. So it's this generation's Francis Ford Coppola's Bram
Mm,
Stoker's Dracula, right? So again, I think that, angsty kids are going to love this. I think they're going to bring this through their lives. It's going to be a quoted movie. I admire it for that. And I liked the homages to the past versions that are in there. So I'm going to go with buckets of rats instead of buckets of popcorn.
buckets of rats. Okay, go ahead.
Out of five, just
Yep.
want to quantify that. Out of five, I was going into this at 3 3/4, but I think I talked
Ooh.
myself
Wow.
up to a 4, just on technicality.
Yeah.
It is a feat, this film, and I
Yeah.
applaud Eggers.
If and when the Oscars ever drop here and they decide, I don't know if they've decided whether or not they're actually going to stick with the original schedule or if it's getting preempted. Well, all the stuff that's going on out in LA. But I'm going to say right now, this artistically, this is going to win some awards.
Mm. I think it already has,
Has it? Okay.
smaller awards. Yeah.
Well, that's usually how it starts, right? You get
Yeah.
but the cinematography, the costumes, the special effects and the sets, the practical. I'm going 4.5.
Ooh.
I was absolutely enamored with this. I thought this was fantastic. This is an artistic achievement.
Now, as we said, audiences agree that
That's good.
this is a great movie. And just to give you an idea, it still hasn't finished its run, even though it's going to drop on VOD, and those numbers get nebulous once it does. But in terms of box office theatrically, off of a $50 million budget, it has made $139 million worldwide. So a success. I think this could be measured as all around.
Well deserved.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
So shall we
I
go
was-
to the concession stand?
Yes, we are going to the concession stand. I'm actually famished right now.
Oh,
Yes. So I really wanted to kind of lean into the whole vampire theme of this week. And I was surprised to learn when I did some research that there is a medicinal candy bar available in Russia called the hematogen, which actually contains cow's blood.
what?
It's not what we're going to talk about, but I had to at least bring it up. No, it's cow's blood. And it's meant as like for medicinal purposes. It's not like a candy bar you buy in the corner. Like, people eat this thing to keep healthy. I'm like, okay, all right. So, but no, this is not available in my local
Ew,
Regal
it
theater.
tastes like a penny. Ew.
Yeah. Ooh, kappa. So instead, I opted for something a little more fun in the confectionery treats. So
Okay.
we are going fundip.
Ooh.
So we saw Orlaka dip in a couple times.
Yeah,
So,
he does the dip. He does
he
the
does
dip.
the dip.
Now, I hope that you've discovered exactly when Lickamade became Fun Dip. Because
Okay, so you want to just do this then?
yes,
You know. So yeah.
this is one of my favorites. So I can't wait to
Okay.
hear this.
All right. So Fun Dip has actually been around for over 70 years, but you're right.
70.
70 years. So in 1940s, this gentleman, Melno Smith, joined his father's company, the Fruzola Company, in St. Louis, Missouri, and he began experimenting with sugary concoctions. And the son and father came up with Fruzola Jr., which is a sugar powder meant to be mixed with water to create a fruity drink, very similar to Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid.
Which was growing in popularity at the time, so they were looking to capitalize on that. But Smith soon realized that kids were bypassing the whole water element and just eating the powder directly from the packets. Obviously it was giving them a bigger jolt of flavor, and I can only assume a massive sugar high.
Mm.
So, in 1952, Fruzola released a 5-cent sugar packet, capitalizing on the craze, called Lickamade. Obviously, adding
1952.
obviously adding the word aid to compete against Kool-Aid. But the name derives from the act of licking the entire packet clean of any powder substance. So much like Orlock sucking you dry of blood, these kids would devour these packets.
Did it have the candy stick at this point?
Not yet. You're getting ahead. You're getting ahead of yourself. So Lick-O-Maid. So just a packet. So just think about it. You literally a sugar packet. Initially, there was cherry and grape. These are the only two flavors. But yeah, for 5 cents, kids would just take these packets, rip them open, drink the powder, and then lick the inside of the packet.
I would think that, though, by the end, you're getting, the packet is disgusting because it's wet with your spit. You're getting paper in your mouth.
I think that's exactly why they went around and introduced the stick. Because, it would be disgusting. I guess around that time, a lot of these candy companies were devoting research or resources to support the World War II efforts. And so they were cutting back on production. So for whatever reason, this penny candy just exploded, just took off. And the neat thing, which they kept for years, was a little pixie-like elf as their mascot. So he was on the little packet, and you could see him he was pouring the packet down his gullet. But it wasn't until the 1960s when Fruzola had been renamed the Sunline Incorporated. The same company that gave us Pixie Sticks and Sweet Tarts. All share the same ingredients, by the way. So Fundip is just a Pixie Stick in a bag.
So you could, in theory, dump Fundip into water and you would have Kool-Aid.
Yeah, that was the original intent, yeah. And then they just, so the marketing was just, you know what, we're just going to tell kids to not put it in water. Just eat it. Just eat it right out of the packet. And I'm sure that parents were like, that's disgusting, stop it. Which made kids probably want it even more.
Yeah.
But it was also around this time that Sunline started promoting the idea that you could put this on other food products. So they were actively promoting that. Dump it on your cornflakes. Add it to your gum, crackers, and ice cream. So these kids were taking these packets, not adding water and making them Kool-Aid. They were suddenly like toppings at Carvel, which is pretty ingenious as far as the marketing goes. So over the years, this product just took off, these little packets, but it was the mid-'60s. They actually started offering mailaways on the back of the packets. So for 35 cents, you could get a cultured pearl clasp necklace.
A cultured
pearl for 35 cents. You mail in a couple packets. So you lick the packets and then mail them back? That's disgusting.
So what kid is going to want a cultured pearl?
Well, so there was other things. So maybe Mother's Day's coming up. 35 cents. And 35 cents was probably still pretty pricey back in the 60s. Because you had to mail the change.
You could down one entire package of Lick-O-Maid, then clutch the pearls.
There you go. Well, Mom could. She's like, oh. But there was you could model airplane kits. They had Rand McNally maps, a stapler. You could actually mail away for a stapler. What kid is like, I want a stapler for a quarter? But as you asked and you inquired, it was not until 1973 that Sunline included the Lick-O-Stick. So basically, inclusion of the Lick-O-Stick is what we know today with the Fundip.
Yes.
So the Lick-O-Stick is a white chalk-like stick, which is just hardened sugar. You're eating sugar with sugar. And you lick the stick, and then you stick it into the powder, and so then the powder sticks to the stick, and then you can lick the powder off the stick, but when you're done, you can eat the stick.
Yes.
So this is just sugar on sugar. This is just... No wonder why dentists had a field day.
But if you're a completist, you can't get every, speck of that powder with the stick.
There's a point where you probably do have to still just rip open the package and lick the inside of the bag. Yeah. So this revolutionized the entire product. And then around this time, so in 1975, Sunline was acquired by Baker Confections, which then changed its name over to Willy Wonka Candy Factory. 83, it was acquired by Roundtree Macintosh Confectionery, which then became Nestle in 88, and then in 93, it all fell under the Wonka banner. So from 1973 on, the inclusion of the Lick-a-Stick just changed this thing. And again, up until this point, it was only 2 different flavors. So now all of a sudden, around 90s, they started offering up 3 packs. You would get 2 connected Kool-Aid packets that had what I said the flavors were: cherry,
grape, and cherry.
And cherry were the 2. And then the 3rd little packet contained the stick. And it was like in a little pouch.
Yep. And is it sour apple now that you can get as a third choice?
Yes. So basically, there was a 3rd flavor. So in 90s, they suddenly decided to make it 3 packets of powder, which included lime. And it came with 2 dipping sticks. So now you're up in the game. So now all of a sudden you get 2 dipping sticks. So now you can get a friend involved.
Yeah, I think the highlight of Fundip Pack is the dipping stick. Like, if they sold that by itself, I would still eat it.
So that's so funny you say that, because there was a change.org petition to actually have them release the Lick-a-Stick as a separate sold item. And in the 90s, they released a product called Yummy Mummies, which was basically a Lick-a-Stick, but there was 5 flavors. You had tropical punch, orange, green apple, cherry, and banana.
But I don't want that. I want the plain white.
You want the plain white, right? So people complained that we want this, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll give you this instead." The Yummy Mummies didn't last very long, but you're right. Lime was originally, eventually discontinued and replaced by blue raspberry, and then in the 90s as well, they introduced the sour raz apple. And the neat thing about that, which is the powder is blue, but it turns green when you lick it. So, and your tongue. That was the other thing too, is all of a sudden you got a green tongue. It was like, look what I've been eating, you know? So, over the years, in the 2000s, they introduced a sour edition. There was a tropical, which included mango, watermelon, strawberry, and a lime-flavored Lick-a-Stick.
Oh, a lime the stick itself was lime.
Yes. In Canada, the apple was replaced with tangerine.
Okay.
And we all know what a vampire's favorite fruit is, right? A nectarine. So your standard packet to this day contains 50 calories and 13 grams of sugar.
So this is one of those, though, that unlike some other classics, like your bottle caps, which have changed over the years, this really hasn't. Because if I pick up a Lick-a-Stick or Fundip today, I still get that same taste as I knew as a kid.
It's actually the ingredients are very minimal. There's only a handful of ingredients, but you're right. The recipe has not changed since the initial 60s. And I found a YouTube channel where a guy actually reviewed it and then ate it, and he was like, I would eat these every day. If I'm not, as a kid, I'd be knee deep in this stuff. And he goes, it still gives me the same sugar high. So
yeah, and it allows you, because with a pixie stick, say if you have little self-control, right?
You're gonna dump it in your.
You're gonna dump the whole thing in your mouth. That's too much on your tongue. Yeah. It takes a while for your mouth to process this giant pile of sugar on your tongue.
Right.
With the stick, you
meet it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You just give yourself just enough with every, and it lasts you. And by the time that you're done with the powder in both packets or 3 packets now, the stick has worn down where it can be easily bitten into.
Yeah, and that's the last thing. You don't want to do that, because the stick itself is maybe 2.5, 3 inches. Yeah, it's not like a big,
Oh, you know what I hate? When you get one and the stick is cracked.
Oh,
because then you've got to really dip your fingers deep into the packet. Because that's the other thing, is you don't get the stuff on your fingers if you use the stick. But if it's broken, then you got no choice.
You're still probably covered in that crap. So, in 2018, Wonka was sold to Ferrero Candy Company. That we've mentioned,
Ferrera.
to the tune of $2.8 billion.
I'm sure we probably say that every time we mention the Ferrero
Probably.
Company.
It's still a fascinating number.
Yeah.
But fundip is still out there. And the packaging, the graphics on the packaging have changed multiple times over the years. They leaned into the Wonka aspect, and they put Oompa Loompas on there for a bit. They were trying to capitalize on the Tim Burton Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie. But it's probably one of the few candies that's out there that taste exactly the way it did back in the 60s.
Now, is the kid with the tongue sticking out still on the package? Because that's what I remember from the fundip package.
There's multiple kids there for a while. I think in the 60s they had kid heads with different, like someone were wearing astronaut helmets and Indian gear and stuff. But I don't think so. I think they went to more like a graphic approach where they just were highlighting the Raz apple, and it's more like a colored monster type of powdered creature with eyeballs. I don't think the kid himself is on there.
At this time of year, the shelves are filled with Valentine's candy.
Yes.
That you buy like in a 24-pack that you give to your whole class. And fundip for the past few years has been a big one.
They have the Valentine's. Yep, they have a limited edition Valentine's packets.
Yep.
With the to and from with the little heart on them, and it comes with one little tiny stick and a handful of powder.
Hey, I take that as a Valentine.
There you go. All right. I'm going to mail you some.
Thank you.
So there you go. Fundip.
Nice.
Salem's Lot.
Salem's Lot.
1979. Again, if you saw this on TV in 1979, you were probably 8-9 years old.
This was in November of 1979.
Okay, so you would have been 9.
So yeah, I would have turned 9 in November of that year. I was actually with my parents visiting my aunt and uncle in Pennsylvania when this first, because I remember it because this was on TV when we were there. Yeah. They wouldn't let me watch it.
I don't
obviously.
Blame them. I don't blame it.
So
well, first of all, it's a 2-night event.
It was a 2-night event, and so when the first night was on, I remember they wouldn't let me in the living room where the TV was on.
Okay.
So I was in the adjoining kitchen, and there was like there's a big, there's not a door in between, so it's just like a big entranceway.
Sure.
And there are 2 stairs that go down from their kitchen into the living room. So I was sitting on the stairs, listening to the TV, but I could see the reflection in the doors of their fireplace on the opposite side of the room. So I watched it
see the
that
vampire.
way.
Vampires don't cast reflections.
Well, they did on this occasion.
Oh, okay.
From the TV set. So I saw it.
In reverse.
And then after that viewing, because I think I obviously only saw one of the night. I'm pretty sure it was the first night. How do you
pull that off 2 nights in a row? Because those made-for-TV movies were 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock.
Well, this one they didn't play on consecutive nights. It was they were a week apart, the 2 parts.
Oh, I don't like that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't like to wait a week.
But I think I don't know what the thought process was behind that, but maybe they thought it might work like a cliffhanger episode of any drama like Dallas or something.
Wait next week. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, because that's how we had to watch regular TV, 1 week at a time.
But that was how I first saw it.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was the first night. I don't remember specifically, but I'm pretty sure it was the first night. And then a couple of years later, I saw the theatrical cut on HBO because that's what they used to play on HBO. Not the full 3-hour version, but a cut down 2-hour version. So that is what I was most familiar with as a kid.
Interesting.
And then only in the DVD era did I actually go back and see that 3-hour version for the first time.
That's fun you mentioned that because that's how I watched Snow Beast. It was that ABC movie of the was sneaking into the end of my bed and watching through the crack in the door for the entire 2 hours because my parents refused to allow me to watch that.
But they watched it.
Yes, yeah, correct. I'm gonna say I don't know where night 1 and night 2 cut off. But there's a lot of exposition in night 1 that I probably could have done without. Night 2, on the other hand, it gets right down to business.
Yes, it does. Now, it was discussed quite a bit, whether or not to make this a 2-hour theatrical movie, but they were thinking that they were losing so much character because you have to care about these characters to feel bad or feel uneasy about what happens to them later on in
Do we? Do we?
I would argue
I was kind of rooting for them.
I would argue
Monster
that this
toward the
isn't
end.
long enough because a lot of characters that you're introduced to, you're
Go
just
nowhere.
assuming that what happens to them.
There's multiple storylines that go nowhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I get it. In the course of a novel, you're building out the world and you're establishing these characters and they've got storylines or whatever, but some of them don't intersect at all. And they don't.
Yeah, because that's the point of the novel is that you're introduced to this entire town and then the
Right.
entire town gets taken over by vampires.
Yeah.
So
some
all
of
these
them
characters
pack up and leave.
Yeah.
And you're just like, well, what happens to them? I want to know what happens to Cully and his cheating wife.
It may be difficult to grasp as you're watching this. This takes place all in the span of like 3 days, 3 or 4 days.
Yeah. And I would be blaming this guy, Ben. He shows up and all hell breaks loose. It's like, all right, dude, you need to go.
Well, that's what the cop thinks, that he's got something to do with this.
The constable.
Yep.
I thought that was Charles Durning. He was doing a really good Charles Durning impersonation from Tootsie.
But all these people most of these people anyway, that you see in this movie are very familiar faces that you've seen in other TV shows.
Sure. Well,
here and there.
You mentioned David Soul was at the top of his game.
Yeah, he was, far and away the most recognizable here. But James Mason, Captain Nemo himself, is in this movie.
Yeah. I didn't even realize Susan is John McClane's wife, Holly.
Yes. Yeah, my wife.
Die Hard.
My wife pointed that out to me.
Yep. Of course, I thought Fred Willard was Herb Tarlick from WKRP. Like he raided his wardrobe there.
Oh, well, I know Fred Willard from That's Incredible.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Which would have been like a year later.
Then, of course, he blew up again in the 90s in Best in Show. Then he was in every Christopher Guest movie after that. So, yeah, all these familiar faces populate. It's really an ensemble movie, is Salem's Lot. But, yes, it's about this small town in Maine, which is often the setting of a Stephen King book. Fictional, because I looked this up because I'm like, wait, is there a real Salem's Lot?
Yeah.
Because if there is, it must be like Allentown, where somebody says, I'm from Allentown. Oh, really? That's too bad. Because you know the Billy Joel song.
You know the Billy Joel song.
Are they still shutting all the factories down in Allentown?
Yeah, I'm living here in Allentown. Yeah. No, yeah, I think every town in Maine that Stephen King writes about is a made-up town. Although this opens in Guatemala.
Yes, which they lost in the cut-down version that I knew as a kid. So the prologue and the epilogue are not there in the cut-down version.
Cut. Are you kidding me?
No.
That's the story I want to see.
Yeah.
David Soul and this kid out chasing
on the
vampires.
run. Yeah.
Because, collecting holy water. They're going to war.
The theatrical cut ends. You think that they've won, that they're burning all the vampires, and they say that the wind should now take the fire into the town. And that's how the movie ends. Wow.
So, all right, we're going to leave it. Yep. Nature will do the rest.
Yeah, and I guess you're my adopted son now.
Yeah, correct. Since everyone you know is dead.
Yep.
Sorry about that, kid. Yeah, right off the bat, man, this music is incredibly intense.
Yeah, it's very Psycho-esque.
Yeah, that's fine. You ramp me up.
Yeah.
Like you said, right out of the gate, you're in Guatemala. You see them at like this temple or whatever. They're collecting holy water. And you're like, these guys are going to war. And then it's like 2 years prior. Okay, 2 years ago. Okay.
Now, the fascinating thing is that this was a success in the TV ratings.
Sure. There probably wasn't up against much.
No.
And you have to figure Stephen King was probably at the top of his game. I mean, what do you have? Carrie had come out.
Although this was only the second adaptation that was put out after Carrie. So it wasn't like he was, Mr. Big Shot Hollywood author at that point.
But he also probably still had an editor that was keeping him terse, not writing 800-page tomes.
But this was broadcast on CBS So it obviously probably had that dun 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 like
Sure.
before it came on. Although you weren't going to get Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer after that.
That's not Rudolph. Son of a.
Although Lance Kerwin does have quite a button nose in this movie.
He's got something going on there.
But it was so well received that CBS considered a series. So I can only imagine that it would have followed them on the run from vampires.
But it's called Salem's Lot. So could you really have, like, every week is just another vampire showing up and you got to just.
It's like the Hulk, right? They're strangers coming into town.
Coming to town. Yep. You got vampires here. All right. We'll have to take care of them.
Here comes Jeffrey Holder, the gravedigger. Look at me. Look at me.
I thought we took care of this guy. I thought that guy was actually Robert Pine from Chips. I was like, that guy looks very familiar, but I did not.
Again, Jeffrey Holder's in tons of genre movies.
Yeah. Does every town, so we're introduced to Ben right off the bat. He's driving back into Salem's Lot, and he's come from Colorado, so he's come all the way across country. You find out that he is a pseudo-successful author.
He's got a couple of books. Yeah.
But nobody recognizes him. He's come back to his own hometown, grew up there, and nobody knows who he is.
Yeah, you'd think he would, some word would have gotten out, like about his books.
We got a local celebrity. This kid, this guy who's writing these books, this is where he came from.
Yeah, even like a feature in the newspaper, local kid made good,
Well, you would think on the little sign coming into town, hey, home of Ben Mears, or author of Air Dancer. No, they tell you the elevation. Why does every town have to tell you how far above sea level they are?
Am I going to get a nosebleed in this town? No, I'm not.
Is that what it is? They're only 360 feet above sea level.
But we also get the population, which should change throughout the course of this movie.
You will just see X's with yeah. Yep. So nobody knows who he is, and yet he still finds somebody who's reading his book. It's like, that's okay. Do we even have halfway houses anymore?
Like boarding houses where he's staying?
Yeah. Did we just rebrand them all bed and breakfasts?
Probably that's the case. Yeah.
Right? Oh yeah. No, we're going to start charging because that's a weird setup. No, you can't rent anything. But if you wanna go live at the halfway house with all those other weird people.
And he asks, because it's Ava is the lady's name that runs it. How do I get breakfast? Oh, you go to the refrigerator. Just mark your stuff. What's yours?
Yeah,
I'm not making you breakfast.
Right. It's like, what am I doing here? Do you know how many books I've written, lady? Apparently not.
But at the same time, Straker shows up into town to open.
Higgins from Magnum PI. Captain Nemo. Yeah.
He's there. He's a very cultured Englishman opening an antique store, Straker and Barlow's antique store. And his partner is Kurt Barlow, or Kurt, as he calls him.
With a K.
With a K. Does anybody? Well, yeah, I guess there are some people with a C, but nobody's ever seen Mr. Barlow.
No.
He's always away on a buying trip.
And multiple people ask, why are you opening it here?
Yeah.
Why here?
And at some point, he gives a throwaway.
There's no reason, right?
He's like, well, we're hoping to build a reputation for ourselves.
No, in this little bum town up in the middle of Maine.
This must be in every town they go to, because it's suggested that they have, or at least Ben surmises later on, that they've done this they've victimized little towns like this elsewhere. So they set up this antique shop in every town that loses money everywhere they go.
Once again, this is the long con that there's an easier way to do
actually, this is actually genius, because they're open long enough for at least one day of business. People buy their stuff, and then after they're vampires, he probably just goes to their house and takes it back.
Takes them back.
And sells it again.
Packs them up, moves them.
Oh, this is a popular
Just have a tag sale.
Yes.
Why even rent the property?
People always buy this one.
They love this one. So, but you're right. So Straker is in charge of this thing. People are already like, well, what's this guy's deal? But we're introduced to the fact that this Marston house is somehow like it's haunted. or it's possessed, that people are drawn to it. And it's like,
Well-
we were told straight up that evil attracts evil. And I'm like, so then why is Ben attracted to this? Is Ben evil?
Ben is not
It
evil,
seems
but
very creepy.
he recognized the evil because there's been the couple of owners of the house, bad things have happened, and Hubie Marston, who the house is named after, hung himself. And this is when Ben, on a dare, he tells a backstory
backstory.
he went in as a kid and saw Hubie Marston's ghost hanging that looked at him, and
Right.
he's never been able to shake it, as nobody would. So
so we're introduced to the kid Mark, and he's in the school play, and they're doing like the history of the town, and they're throwing a lot of exposition at you, which it doesn't like. That to me is like, all right, this town has been full of crazy characters, and it's been possessed in this house. Like none of that really plays out.
No, that's what they should be doing the school play about. I'd want to see like a kid hanging as Hubie Marston, yeah. And then Hubie Marston hung himself.
And Ben saw it.
Yep. His ghost has lived in that house ever since.
Boo.
And you could have a sheet going across.
Right, correct.
Yeah.
But Mark is also obsessed with Universal monster stuff, and his dad's a real bitch about it.
When are you gonna outgrow all this stuff?
Yeah, this is the kind of dad you come home from school and you find out all your stuff's been thrown away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I threw away your Star Wars toys and your comic books. You need to grow up. Yeah, you need to die. Like this guy's a jerk. It's like, friggin', why do you like this stuff? Even his little friends, the Glick brothers. I'm like, why do you like this stuff? I don't know. I just do. I saw Salem's Lot sneaking in the back room of my house, in my aunt's house in 1979, and I've been obsessed with it ever since.
Sooner or later, you're going to come to me to figure all this stuff out because
Correct.
I like all this stuff.
This is the Frog Brothers in the Lost Boys.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, we just happen to own a comic book store and we know everything we need to know about vampires.
Yes.
Yeah, there's exactly. Look, there's a manual tells you how to kill them. Look,
so one of the things that we don't know about vampires until this movie is that they deal antiques, apparently.
Well, I mean, he's been around for a while. Sure. Yeah. He's probably amassed a fortune.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually how Nash did it in Highlander.
Now, Ben is caught red-handed a couple of times by Straker, like gazing longingly at the house, like from the driveway of the house.
He's a creeper. Like,
so
right
you'd think that this guy would be number one on Straker's kill list right here. This guy that might rat him out before anything could come to pass.
Correct. And we just keep getting these signs. Mr. Barlow's coming. He's coming. It's like, ooh, Barlow.
But in between all these scenes of dread of building up to Barlow, you're introduced to the townsfolk. You've got, you're introduced to Fred Willard as the real estate guy.
Yep, Crockett.
Who is having an affair with his secretary, who has a beer-swilling, huge, shotgun-toting husband.
Yeah, well, I felt bad for Cullen when he figured it out, because she thinks, oh, yeah, we've got his number. We just give him some beer and he's good to go. Mm-hmm. Beer, shotgun, and infidelity do not mix.
All these little character introductions, for the most part, are missing from the 2-hour version.
Huh.
So in the 3-hour version, you put it together that Weasel, the town drunk, has been spying on Willard and the secretary for Cullen. And that's how Cullen knows this is going on. Because
he's like the town rep, because even the constable.
The cop says, are you spying on them for Cullen? Oh, no, never. Okay, that's good. Now I want you to spy on somebody.
Right. Look at this new guy that came into town, Ben. Why don't you keep an eye on him?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got Susan's ex-boyfriend is another storyline.
The plumber. Yep.
Yeah.
You meet Susan's parents. One of them is the doctor who is going to be Ben's ally a little bit later on.
So how old is this girl? You take Ben on a first date to your parents' house?
Well, it's already established that she is out of college. She had a job in an advertising agency because she's an artist. She lost it, and then she had to move back home. So she must be in her mid-20s.
Yeah.
But still, you're staying at home with the parents. You got to live by
Right.
their rules. That's how they treat her.
No, you don't bring the guy home on the first date to your parents' house. You go out somewhere. Although it's a small town, so there's probably not a lot of places to go. Oh, wait, the lake. Let's just go to the lake where dad can chastise you for, being can you be a little more discreet next time you want to nail my daughter?
And it just so happens that where Ben is staying, he has a direct line of sight with the Marston house. So he can sit there, type, and look out the
Sure.
window and stare at this house.
Okay, can we talk about this? Because this guy is supposed to be a professional writer. He's henpecking one finger at a time on this keyboard. That's not how you type. It must take him years to write a book.
Probably not a lot of research went into David Soul's preparation for this role
You should at
as
least
a
know
writer.
how to type on a typewriter if you're playing it. Stephen King wasn't on set that day going, can you use both hands, please?
The town drunk sneaks in and looks at his stuff. He actually reads, all work and no play makes Ben a dull boy.
Oh, damn it. Crossing over novels. I think this guy's crazy.
So also, on the reverse, whenever you see shots from the Marston house's front porch, you see the entire town of Salem's Lot.
It's got a nice view. No wonder why this Barlow wants it.
So fascinatingly, they actually found a location. Obviously, they needed to have a house that looked over another
Right.
town. I never looked at this before, but when I was watching for this viewing, I'm like, where is this? Is this in Maine?
No.
It is Ferndale, California.
Yeah.
And they actually found a house in Ferndale that overlooked the town, just like they wanted.
Yep.
But it didn't look like the Marston house. It's more like I saw a picture of the house as it is today. Just like a one level,
Yeah, they built a facade.
nondescript house. But yeah, they built the Marston house around it. And the family lived in it as they were filming.
I think they said the cost of building the fake front was more than it cost to build a real house back in the day.
If I was that family, I'd like, just leave it. This is cool.
Yeah, listen, we're good. Thank you.
Yeah. But that driveway is still there. It's their driveway. It goes
Oh,
around to the
wow.
back of their house. Yeah.
You think you got people showing up there, taking pictures out front?
They must.
Probably.
Cully is telling his wife that he's going, to pick up something. And
Yeah, they were hired to go and pick up Mr. Barlow.
Mr.
Oh,
Barlow.
They didn't.
Yeah,
Like,
but
great.
Straker is telling them that it's a sideboard, that something that's going to go in their store, right?
It's like an 800-pound crate.
It's a crate, but I want you to put it in the cellar of the Marston house. Then
That doesn't fit.
leave the keys to all these padlocks on the table,
Yeah.
and then lock all the doors. Padlock all the doors from the outside.
They failed miserably at every
miserably.
aspect of it.
Because as they're bringing this thing back from the docks, it's moving towards them, like in the back of the truck.
Well, he's hungry. He's been on a ship.
Yeah, and apparently he was a good boy on the ship. He stayed in the
Yeah,
box, not
he
like
did, yeah.
Nosferatu, not like
No.
Orlok.
Actually, when they were in the car, you could hear him in the back going, "Can we stop at McDonald's?" It's like, did you hear that?
No, actually, I heard, "Are we there yet?"
Right. Shaving haircut. Is it safe to come out? Not yet. So they could barely move this crate in the back of the truck. And yet, as we point out, it somehow miraculously makes it into the basement, which clearly the crate is much bigger than the actual doorway.
And they're freaking out by this point. They're like, we just
Yeah,
got to
sure.
get out of here, right?
So because there's some wacky crap in the basement. They're like, all right, we just need to go.
So as we see later, once Straker comes back after it's been delivered, he goes down into the basement and he sees the box has exploded from the inside.
This guy, diarrhea? Like, what happened?
What stopped him from doing that when the two guys were there in the
I know.
basement?
Yeah. No, he's got to wait for him to bring him some takeout.
And does Straker really think that padlocks would have stopped him from getting out of that house?
I guess. I don't know.
He couldn't have just gone upstairs and opened a window and left?
But it's Straker that kidnaps the Glick boy, right? It's not.
Yes, because he's paving the way. So this is the great thing about James Mason's performance here as Straker. And this is like the highlight of him in this movie, is that when he tells Fred Willard the instructions about pick up this box, leave the padlocks on the door, Fred Willard leaves, you see him like anxiously wringing his hands like, oh. And you don't know if he's scared of Barlow, if he's upset with himself for doing this. But as you watch the thing and you realize how evil Straker is, he's just nervous that it's going to go wrong.
Yeah, sure.
That the master
crap. This guy
is not going to make it to the house. Yeah.
I asked you to bring me a kid.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Oh, sorry, master.
So the events like kind of snowball. First, the Jeffrey Holder, the gravekeeper.
His dog
dies, which is never explained.
No, because you would think that somebody ate it and drained it of blood.
Well,
we know we're dealing with vampires.
I think that this was actually a scene that may have been cut even from the 3-hour movie, because in the remake of Salem's Lot,
yes.
I think the one that had Rob Lowe in it, they actually explain that the dog is killed on the cemetery grounds because it's consecrated ground. And once the dog is killed for whatever reason, it's no longer consecrated ground. So the vampires can actually rise from their graves.
So all you got to do is just kill somebody?
Yeah, so that's the reason that the dog is killed. And we assume it's Straker.
But we also see Barlow does take out Fred Willard's character in those sexy boxer shorts.
Yes, and so this is another big question, because they leave the body after it's a freeze frame, so you don't see what all you see is Barlow's clawed hand.
It goes to a commercial break. Yeah, this is the one thing. This is a made-for-TV movie, and there are commercial breaks that literally cuts to black.
Yep. So they leave Fred Willard's dead body behind the wheel of his own car at the lake. How did they get it there?
And drive it right. It's like somebody had to drive it there.
Did Barlow drive one of the cars?
And now put it in gear so that it runs into Ben's Jeep so we could draw attention to it. No, just let it drive into the lake and sink.
And once Fred Willard's body is found and they cart it away, it's said that he had a heart attack. So before Barlow got to drink him, he died of a heart attack. So he didn't come back as a vampire.
Right.
Short stories, to make a
Cullen,
long story short.
Who literally had a shotgun up to the guy's face, just packs up his wife, beats her a couple times, and then drives away, and you never hear from them again.
Nope.
What? Wait, I want resolution on that storyline.
In his defense, in Cully's defense, he gave Fred Willard an out when he went to the office before he made the ruse that he was going away. He's, leave her alone now.
Yep.
Don't touch her.
He's kidding.
Yep.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't know anything. Yeah, he did. This is the scene that I'm sure stuck into your little brain, which was the Glick kid coming back.
Yes.
This is well done. And for a made-for-TV movie in the 1970s, this is horrific.
It is.
And it's spectacular because when you watch it, you realize it's filmed in reverse because the clouds don't billow out, they come back into him. So the kid's in bed and all of a sudden he wakes up and I guess everyone has these giant windows that open up the sash. And in comes this floating kid. They don't have screens. They're going to let bugs in when they open the window. Especially in Maine. Yeah. In the summertime, you're going to be taken out by mosquitoes. Don't worry about vampires. But this kid comes floating in and he is, it's all backlit and wow. But as you said, it's filmed in reverse and it's one long shot of him biting the neck and coming in. So they had to do that all in one take. Yeah. And he's on a cherry picker that you never see. You do see it with the older brother in that scene. But that's great because you would assume that you would just suspend him on wires. But then how do you get him through the window frame unless you're cutting? Yeah, no, it's well done. But my wife did point out, when the younger brother comes in, she's like, how's he in his pajamas? He was in his clothes. Could you take me back home? Did Straker buy him a set of pajamas? I never picked up on that. Well, it was nighttime. You had to go with PJs on. Yeah.
Because that doesn't even make sense
undead.
for a deleted scene. Like, there's
Right.
how does he get the pajamas on?
Straker. Do you have any boys' pajamas?
Yeah.
He goes to JC
I
Penney's
want
down
boys'
the street.
pajamas.
Excuse me? Yeah. You know that boy that's missing? What size was he again? So they immediately assumed that Straker has something to do with it.
So the constable comes to see him.
Well, they find the torn piece of black suit.
He yells in the megaphone, "Don't touch that!"
And then he touches it. It's like, you're the worst cop ever.
He liberally, he runs it through his fingers.
Get this to the lab immediately.
And then he says to,
Sir, I think you killed him.
to Straker, he's like, "Do you have any black suits?" "Yeah, I have
2.
3. I mean 2.
No, right? At your convenience, could you bring those to me? Well, sure. Let me dry clean them first.
Yep.
Nope. Yeah. You're the number one suspect. Can you bring all the evidence to me? Because I'm way too lazy to actually go to your house. Okay, sure. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Is this also where we get? So I had to look this up because the constable makes a comment about Yowans.
Yeah.
And he's like, "What the hell is that?" And he goes, "Oh, that's what we call kids around here."
Yeah.
And so I actually looked up. There's so many like slang words that people from Maine use. I mean, obviously like wicked pissa and more like a Boston area, but Yowans I've never heard.
And I just have to say, just going back to when Straker brings the Ralphie Glick wrapped up in a garbage bag, that whatever James Mason is actually carrying is so much smaller than that kid.
Until he opens it.
Yeah.
You're like, wait a minute. It was just like a tickle me Elmo in there wiggling around. Yes.
And then we get, going back into the character, we get a scene where Susan establishes that she's going to Boston on a job interview. So she's going to be out of the picture for a little while as the stuff starts to go down.
Correct. I'm going to be away. You take care of whatever you need to take care of, and I'll come back in the end. You do want to see her a little more involved, but no.
So, and again, the cop is still suspecting Ben. So he calls out to the FBI. His contact, "Can you look up Ben Mears for me? Can you look up Straker? Can you look up Barlow?" And they apparently have built a cover for themselves where they seem legit, like in the FBI's files.
Sure, he's had plenty of time to, file paperwork and do whatever you got to do. I'm on the up and up. What do you mean every town I go to, people die? I don't know.
And so when the constable goes, and he asks to see his suits, and Mason says, "Am I under some kind of suspicion?"
Yes.
And
yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, perhaps." The missing boy with a big smile on his face.
Like, "Oh, you caught me." Not. It's like the constable. He's like, "Want a donut?"
And there's one scene in here that made me laugh just from watching the director's commentary, the story behind it. When James Mason is bringing in the suits to drop off to the sheriff,
right,
and he's about to open the store, there's a handheld shot of him driving the car. And Toby Hooper is in the passenger seat next to him, filming James Mason backing up into the driveway of the antique store. And he jumps the curb. So the car jumps. And you see James Mason almost break. He has a slight smile on his face when he jumps. And then they stop the car, and, Toby Hooper says, "Cut." And James Mason says to him, "Do you want to film that again because I screwed up parking?"
"No, you're an idiot."
And Toby's like, "No, nobody's going to notice. But, you know what you could do?" And I can just picture James Mason's voice saying this. "Just insert a shot of me running over a child's head."
Wow.
"And keep the smile on my face."
He's method. He's like all in. "How many more children do we have on set?" Well, the other kid dies, and the nurse walks in on him in the hospital. And you work in a hospital. You have to come across dead people all the time, and yet she screams and drops everything.
Although he is pretty freakily contorted, so I'll give her that. I'll give her the scream.
Fine. He's dead.
So now both kids are dead. The mother is beside herself. The mother, in reality, is James Mason's wife, that actress.
Yes, I did read that. Yeah. Yes.
They have the funeral. And again, this is, the real cemetery in this town of Ferndale, which is also on the top of a hill. So the cars have to drive up the hill and down the hill to get in and out of the cemetery. So Jeffrey Holder as, what's this character's name? The grave digger. Let's see.
Oh, Mike.
Mike, the grave digger.
Yeah.
So he goes into a trance. He's the only one there to fill in the grave.
Okay, tell me about the scene because my disc glitched as he's filling in, and I'm like, oh, he's going to get it.
You didn't see?
And then it cuts. No, it cuts. My disc jumped, and I couldn't get it back.
This was the scene that has stuck with me.
Oh,
forever.
Are you kidding me? Why is this the one
you.
scene? Why is this the one scene that glitched on my disc?
This is the scene. So what happens is that he goes into a trance because Danny Glick in the coffin is calling to him. So he jumps down into the grave. He clears the dust off of it and he opens it. And Danny Glick is in there with his eyes open, looking at him.
With those
with the glowing eyes.
Yeah.
And so then you cut to a close-up of Jeffrey Holder's face looking down. He hears thunder. He looks up and suddenly it's a jump scare of Danny Glick sitting up right into his face. And he bites his neck. The camera freeze frames just like it did on Fred Willard. And that is the end of part 1.
Son of a...
So you missed the end of part 1.
That's exactly what I missed. So then who filled in? So the next time we see Mike, he's wandering into the bar or the restaurant.
So it could be that in the trance, he was told to fill in the rest of the grave.
Oh, yeah, by the way, you're now mine. But finish your job first.
Yeah, because I don't...
I can't believe I missed that.
You missed it.
You know what I did laugh at, though? There was that scene when Susan is telling Ben that they're in the diner, and she's telling him that she's got to go back to Boston or whatever. And the waitress comes over and she goes to fill like the pot of coffee, and she goes to pour, and Ben stops her. He doesn't have a cup in front of him. Where's she going to put this?
No wonder he stopped her.
No, stop. Yeah, no, not my lap. So I thought that was funny, but God, I can't believe I missed that whole scene. That whole thing glitched.
That's terrible.
I wonder if somebody watches so many times that it just wore away the disc.
I know, because that's the scene probably everybody remembers.
Yeah, nope, I don't remember it. But I did. So, right. And then I guess they did do some research into Ben, find out like who he was, where he came from or whatever. And we get this little from one of the police officers, and he goes, hey, he's a crazy left winger. He's against nuclear power and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I guess that's all it takes to be a left winger.
But in that same scene, they say that Straker is 58 years old. I'm like, this guy is only 4 years older than me.
Stop. Listen, they age differently back then. So, but then Mike walks in. We're dining at Pizza Hut.
That's what it looks like.
It does look like a Pizza Hut with the red and white checkered tablecloth. And Mike is like all half crazed. And so what do? They give him whiskey. Mike's out of his mind. Get him some alcohol.
Yeah, calm this guy down. Right? Give him some alcohol.
Okay.
So Ben hasn't quite caught on about vampires yet. He's just still going on about how the Marston house is evil and these people must have something to do.
There's 2+ hours into this before the word vampire is even mentioned.
Yes. Yep.
Which is crazy because we all know what's coming.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the teacher here, who is Jason Burke, that's the character's name,
yes,
or Ben's old teacher, says, "Oh, Mike, there's something really wrong with you. Come stay at my house."
There's some borderline homoerotic crap going on here between Mike and Jason Burke. Yeah, come stay at my house, Mike.
Jason Burke calls calls Ben in a panic because he hears laughter, like children's laughter coming from the room.
Yeah, I'm not going in there. You go in there.
And at the same time, Danny Glick goes to Mark's house to try to get Mark to open the window and let him in. But Mark, because he knows about all this stuff, he takes the crucifix off of one of his Aurora model kits.
Well, he literally saw the kid getting buried.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure if my buddy came back to me, I would have to do something. Yeah.
Now, this, as he's saying, get out of here, go away. And the cherry picker is slowly retreating. You can see it in between the kid's legs.
Multiple viewings, I probably would have caught it. But in this moment, like, I was just very taken with that effect. I thought that was well done.
And then the father like comes to, you're having a nightmare? What's going on in here?
Yeah, remember my friend, my dead friend? Yeah, he's back.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came back. I told you to get rid of this crap.
So Ben comes over. They find Mike dead. They find one single drop of blood on his pajamas, but the marks are gone. So they like cover their tracks. The marks disappear, so nobody can suspect.
I didn't understand that.
Yeah. But then, you know, as the movie's going on, we're hearing that these bodies are disappearing from the morgues and what have you because they're raising as vampires. So what is the end game is my question here. Soon you're going to run out of people to feed on in this town.
Well, like you said, the antique store does open. People come in, they buy stuff. So now we got a couple more dollars that we can just move on.
But you're creating competition for yourself in whoever's left.
Because now all these other people are eating other. Well, that was my dog. I wanted that dog. I've been eyeing him up all week. Damn it. But why? So the ex-boyfriend comes back, punches out Ben. He ends up in jail. But then the vampire goes to the jail cell to take him. Like, there's got to be easier prey than breaking into a jail.
Well, no, because he was a sitting duck in that jail cell and nobody was there. So he can easily, as he just waved his hand over that lock and it opened.
Okay.
Well, and he comes.
At the library.
And you get a nice jump scare. It's the first time you see Barlow, right? So he's got that blue makeup. Complete Nosferatu, right?
Yes.
So
yeah, no, it is. He's vibrant. Like he is like where we talk about Eggers and everything is like drab and dreary. This is like neon Smurf almost. Like he is like, yeah, no, it's a scary. When his face shows up, you're like, whoa, like you literally jump back going, whoa.
And now what's unbelievable about this is this actor, Reggie Nalder, who unfortunately had burns on his face, so he was often cast as villains in movies just because of his his unique look.
Right.
Was 72 years old when he filmed this.
What?
Yeah.
Get out of here. Wow.
This was an old man when he filmed this movie.
He looks younger than the other guy you just said was 58. I did like the fact that this old man, Jason, he reads a few vampire books and suddenly he's like a friggin' bona fide Van Helsing.
He's an expert, yeah.
Yeah.
So the next night is when Gravedigger Mike comes back as a vampire. Look at me.
Right. I don't want to look at you. No, I'm not looking at you. Can you get out of the rocking chair, please? You're upsetting me. Yeah, the whole town's going to hell in a handbasket here.
Yep.
It's a plague.
So now is when we start to lose track of what's happening to these characters because the teacher, Jason, has a heart attack and goes in the hospital. You never see him again.
No, you never see him again.
You don't know what happens to him. You assume the vampire gets him because he's a sitting duck there.
Correct. And he's like, he's tarnished. He's like a chicken that's been left out too long. Oh, he had a heart attack. That's no good to me. It's not good blood. So, you know what the real nightmare of this whole movie is Mark's hair. Every boy that grew up in the 70s was forced to endure this bowl cut.
It's almost like each barbershop had a picture of a penis in the barbershop. Well, and the guy, the haircut was made to look like the head of a penis.
So just go to your local Moyle. Can you take a little off the top? I was going to blame Adam Rich, but maybe you're right. Maybe you're onto something. Maybe there was a penis epidemic back in the 70s. But there's a kitchen scene with the mom.
The mom and dad get taken out simultaneously.
This kitchen scene is insane. This is what the master comes.
Again, you're watching this scene, and again, you're thinking to yourself, "This is a made-for-TV movie."
Yeah, no, this is intense. This is insane.
Because the priest is there. That's why this happens. Because they're tracking the priest.
Yeah, so, this escalates quickly.
So what looks like a black sack gets thrown through the kitchen window, and
he just unfurls. It unfurls, and it's him. And it was like so wild. Yeah, no, I would be traumatized as a kid watching this.
And then, he immediately smashes the parents' heads together and they're killed.
Yeah.
And then in comes James Mason to challenge the priest,
Yeah.
who we assume goes down immediately.
Right. You know what? I'm fine.
And this is where James Mason just was reveling in his evil character.
Yeah, because now he doesn't have to hide anymore.
Like,
Now
put your
he's
faith
everything.
against the master.
Oh, yeah. He's full on. Oof.
So you're wondering now, and you're never really given much. When we haven't even talked about the book yet. Maybe this should have been a book review
That would have been
episode.
interesting. I probably would have been disappointed comparing it to the book. Yes.
But yeah,
No.
you're left to fill in the blanks about like Barlow and Straker's relationship, and what have they done
I mean,
previously.
But I mean, if you know anything about vampire lore in, is it a familiar? Is that what?
Yeah,
would
that's
be
somebody
referred
who,
to?
who
That
paves the way
basically,
for them.
so I mean, we talked about Renfield, and Renfield is basically, Dracula's go-to guy. You're going to do all the dirty work, and I'm just going to show up and bite some necks. So yeah, I don't think. I mean, yeah, it would be great. Like I said, you get to the end of this movie, and I want to see more of this adventures in Guatemala, because now you got like this hardened Ben, as like the X-Files.
They could be, and they could take this worldwide. They could like go from country to country now.
So let's finish this up because I have questions about the end. But you got this fantastic scene of Ben in the morgue, and it's just this great cut back and forth because the body's there. That she's going to come back to life, but he does this fantastic. You're cutting to Ben, and now you're cutting to the body. Now you're cutting to Ben, and every time you go back to Ben, the camera's getting slightly closer to his face, and it's just building. It's just ratcheting up this tension because
his face is reacting to each time the body moves under the sheet.
Flinches, yeah.
And that they're not, the way that they're filming this is that that he's not actually looking at her under the sheet, but the way this is cut together.
No, it is very well done. Yeah. And it's like, here she comes.
And then like he's wrapping up the two tongue depressors.
The tongue depressors to make the
and then
crucifix.
he says a great line. He says, "No atheists in foxholes." And then he starts to pray.
Yeah. Yeah, he blesses it. And so she disappears, which I don't think. So he burns her with the crucifix that he blessed on her forehead, which we've seen before in vampire movies. But then she just poofs.
Yeah, I think that's budgetary more than anything else, that they couldn't really, do anything more elaborate than that, unfortunately.
So
but she is so freaky,
So he vanquishes her. So that's how you got to take out.
And I could see, because again, this is James Mason's wife that is made up, like as a shrew. And I could see him like probably on set, you've captured her.
Oh, man. Yeah, so this gets really intense.
But I remember getting some, I don't know if it was a Starlog or Fangoria or what have you, but there was a horrific production still of this woman with her tongue out, like, leering at Ben.
Right.
That is also seared into my memory.
But this whole time that all this is going down, I'm just questioning, where's Susan? I mean, I know she's in Boston, but like,
no. But at this point, she's come back from Boston, and because there's a scene before Ben and her father go to the morgue, Ben tells her to buy hawthorn, which is some, I guess, anti-vampire plant, and hang it around the house while they're gone. And when they come back from the morgue,
oh, that's right. Yes. Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking to myself, did my disc glitch again? Do I remember that? So,
but on the way back from the morgue, this is where Ben says, I know a guy that's tuned into the occult in San Francisco.
Right.
We have to get to Barlow during daylight and stake him there. I'm like, what does this guy do in San Francisco?
Yeah. Hey, this is Ben. You know what you got to do? Yeah, we got a vampire problem out here. Oh, yeah. Let me tell you what you got to do. Yeah.
But this is also when we see, because the next day, in any vampire movie, why do the heroes wait until the sun is going down to actually enter the house?
Let's get our fish together. No. Yeah. We should have done that at 8 a.m. in the morning. We have all day. We got all day to pull this off.
But this is where the cop is leaving with his family. Apparently his family hasn't been touched yet, but he's like, nope, I'm out of here. Sorry, I'm retiring.
Yeah, correct.
This is as good a time as any.
Good luck. Yeah, I do like the fact that no one ever takes their keys out of the car, by the way.
Nope, of course not.
Yeah.
And speaking of cars, the director Toby Hooper on the commentary said that the Jeep was a character in itself, Ben's Jeep, because if you notice, the door never shuts. When he slams it shut, it always opens again. He has to go out of his way to shut the door twice in several scenes. And the director said this was by design because he wanted Ben in a vehicle that was almost open air, that seemed where he was vulnerable. Even when he was driving.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's why the Jeep has got flimsy doors and a flimsy hood. So he could be gotten to.
It was Christine's grandfather, great-grandfather.
So Susan, Ben tells her, get out of town, take anybody that will listen to you, take your mother, and get out of town. But Susan, for whatever reason, she goes to the boarding house, I guess, to try to get Ava to leave, but she realizes that Ava is also a victim.
Yeah.
And then she sees a car parked at the Marston house and goes there. Why? I don't know.
We'll never know.
But when she gets there, she sees Mark breaking in to the house with a stake in his hand.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yeah. He's full on like vampire hunter now.
Yep.
Yeah, he's going in, man. I'm taking care of this guy.
So she goes in the house after him, and this is where we get that spooky indoor set of the Marston house, which looks like the Addams Family house.
Yeah. Or the Munsters.
I was just expecting Spot to come out of that staircase.
Yeah, there's a lot of dust.
No, the Munsters, not the Addams Family.
Yeah,
the Munsters had Spot. Yeah. They obviously did no work to the inside of this house after they bought it. Where does Straker sleep? On the floor?
Well, he's not really concerned with
cleanliness, I guess.
No, correct. I don't know. Yeah.
But yep, they're sneaking around the house. Susan finds Mark, but Straker finds them, knocks out Mark, ties him up, and takes Susan to meet the man she's come here to meet.
Yeah.
Mr. Barlow. But it's daytime. Barlow's in the coffin and doesn't come out until Ben drags him. So what happened to Susan? Was she still alive in that house when they burned it?
I don't know. We don't find out until the epilogue.
So Ben shows up to the Marston house with Susan's dad in tow, because now they know that Straker is human because Ben's friend that's tuned into the occult told him that Straker's the human that paves the way for the vampire. Dad gets impaled on the decorative deer horns.
Oops.
on the wall. Yeah.
Yeah, he gets how convenient that we can't dust the place, but we made sure there was plenty of deer antlers around.
Yep. Ben shoots Straker 4 or 5 times as Straker is descending the steps towards him until he finally goes down.
It's like he's got a John Wick bulletproof suit on.
Yeah. They go down to the cellar. Does Ben and Mark. Mark goes first, but Straker geniusly has sewn the stairs off the cellar.
That's a move, man.
In the book, he put stakes down there.
I was going to say punchy sticks would have just upped the ante. So did Mark in the book fall onto punchy
No,
sticks?
it was somebody else that did. I forget who. Maybe it was the father that did. I think maybe it was in the book.
That's hardcore. That's like friggin' Kevin McAllister.
Yeah.
Level Home Alone crap.
But they find the little crawl space where Barlow and all the other vampires are just hanging around. They don't have coffins. They're just like on the floor around the coffin.
This is literally the worst halfway house ever.
All the characters that you've seen turn into vampires earlier are all hanging out there. They're all there.
They're like, oh, that's where we got to go now? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh. So, again, is like Barlow like now the mayor of Salem's Lot? And
I don't know.
These are his constituents? Yeah.
These are my paper. I signed the paperwork beforehand. I now own this town. Barlow Town.
Open it up just as Barlow is waking up, but they managed to stake him. It seemed pretty easy.
Yeah, no, right, yeah.
He didn't put up much of a fight.
No, it's like, crap, you caught me. Damn it. I knew I should have put a bell on this thing.
But yeah, just as the sun is going down, they managed to do it. Just like anybody defusing a bomb, it has to be like 2 seconds left on the counter before the
Yeah,
bomb goes off.
sure.
The sun has to be going down right at that second. They set the house on fire. And Ben actually says, sorry, Susan, as he's leaving.
I know. That's pretty hardcore. He's like, kind of liked you. Sorry.
And then there's that line, the wind's blowing towards town. The fire is going to get taken towards town.
And they just, okay, that's fine. Yeah,
And
let's
they
go.
leave.
Yeah, wipe their hands. We're good here. Let's go.
So now
Come
we're
on,
back in
kids.
Guatemala at the end, the epilogue, right?
Yep. So then we pick back up where they were at the beginning, filling up their little vials of holy water, and it glows. And he says, they have found us again. I'm like, why would they chase you to Guatemala?
Because they're
How?
pissed that he killed
How?
the master.
How did they chase him to Guatemala? Are they driving?
Are they like
On foot.
killing people along the way?
Right. At what point you'd be like, you could tell me that's the only guy? That's the only vampire in the world. One of them would step up and be master.
And so what would they do? Would they go to the neighboring town and take that over? Because anybody that they bite is now a vampire. So they're
vampire.
spreading this.
Yeah. You like, again, you got to have like Walking Dead level zombies, vampires all over the place. This is what I want to see. I want to see the sequel. This just is ripe for from Dusk Till Dawn level Gecko Brothers, David Soul and this kid fighting vampires in Guatemala.
And what happened to the towns before? As they left them, did they just leave the vampires there? Did they kill the vampires to cover their tracks?
So many questions. Well,
So
here's
many
the bigger
questions.
question. Susan comes back. Is she pregnant?
I don't think so.
Why did
No.
it look like she was pregnant? And I'm like, hold on, there's quite a lot of time passed, so it's not like it would have been his kid.
That wasn't in the book, so that
Okay,
I don't think that was
thought
the
maybe
intent.
it was just weird the way she was laying on the bed, but she's like laying in bed. Clearly, she's turned.
But how did she
But
become
she's-
a vampire? Because again, when Straker
And
got to
follow
her,
him all,
it was
right, and
daytime.
follow him all the way to Guatemala just to be like, hey Ben, I'm back. We had
Remember
a
what you
thing.
did to the master? Yeah, we didn't
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, come over here. I want to kiss you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna kiss you on the neck. I don't know. A little bit of a letdown there at the end, but it did ramp up. There was some exciting for a made-for-TV movie in the 70s. It has a lot going on for it.
Oh yeah, and as you say, from that point on, from where the second part of the miniseries begins, it just is like a roller coaster to the end.
Yeah. I almost think I want to see the theatrical cut.
Mm-hmm.
I did read that they had included some extra. They reshot some scenes to make it gorier for the theatrical.
Yeah, I imagine that what they showed on HBO was the European theatrical cut,
Okay.
because there wasn't a theatrical version released in America. It was only shot for overseas.
Yeah, that seemed to happen a lot. Like Galactica, they took the 2-hour premiere and re-edited it for a European release in theaters.
Mhm.
So around that time, they were doing that a lot. Buck Rogers the same way, although I think Buck Rogers did get an American theatrical release.
It
Yeah,
did. Oh, I remember the theatrical release of Buck Rogers.
right.
But
So-
yeah, it's
This is it. This is the first time I've ever seen this.
wow.
Yeah. And I can imagine, like I said, I can't imagine watching this as a 9-year-old because
Mhm.
it's a lot. Yeah, I mean, we didn't have access to, go to your library and rent Nosferatu or whatever. You're watching stuff that pops up on TV, and this is fantastic. This is pretty wild.
Yeah, it is. And this was an era of really, out of the park TV movies that were horror based. We talked about Don't Be Afraid of the Dark with the
Yeah,
little trolls
thinking-
that live
yep.
in the wall, or gargoyles that you've
Gargoyles.
seen recently, right?
Did we cover that? We
No,
haven't
we've
covered
never
it,
covered
but
gargoyles.
I did watch it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another one. You're just like, what was going on in the 70s here?
Mhm.
Because no wonder why we're all warped.
Yeah, Dark Knight of the Scarecrow is another one.
Ooh, I don't want to watch it. Don't make me watch it.
And the one with Karen, Trilogy of Terror, the one with Karen
Trilogy
Black,
of Karen Black.
and the little
Oh, that's that little troll guy.
yeah, the doll
Yeah,
that she
yeah,
that tries to kill her.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nope. Yeah.
But yeah,
Crazy.
this is It's not as intense as Texas Chainsaw Massacre, nowhere near, but still, it is chilling and it is creepy. And, it still gives me the creeps just thinking of it, watching it as a little 9, 10-year-old.
Sure. Yeah, stuff like this got to
Yeah.
stick with you.
I don't want Danny Glick coming to my window and scratching at it.
I don't think anybody does. Even his mother would be like, Danny, can you go away? Yeah, no, this was pretty wild.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry that my disc failed me at the worst possible time, because that would have been a pretty epic jump scare, and then have to wait a whole week to see how that plays out.
I know.
It's insane.
And I can only imagine, of course, you needed to have last time on Salem's Lot.
Oh, you definitely have to. Sure. And then something comes up and you miss it. Damn it. Now I'll never know what happened.
I just want to see it with that dun 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 in the
Oh, I bet you if you go to YouTube, somebody has it with commercials.
Yeah, but David Soul hits it out of the park on this. He's great as Ben Mears.
He holds his own here. So, like I said at the beginning, 1977, I just happened to be listening to Casey Kasem in April of 1977, so 2 years prior to this movie. Don't Give Up on Us Baby was number one, top 40. So he was hitting on all cylinders there.
On the commentary, Tobe Hooper said this was the only time in all of his career making movies he's ever had to do this, but every morning when they brought David Soul to set, he had to flank him with an assistant director to fight off the autograph hounds.
He was dreamy, that hair.
He was the man back then.
Those tight jeans, baby. I hear the Jeep actually gets more fan mail now. So
I'd like the door of that Jeep, just to hang that on my wall. Yeah,
it just keeps opening on you.
Yep.
It's like, what? God, I just closed this yesterday.
So this is near and dear to me. This movie,
yeah,
I hold it very high regard.
Bucket proof.
I bought the Blu-ray, so I would have it.
Okay,
picture's great.
Yeah.
Although it's the sides of the screen are cut off, so you could tell it's not like an anamorphic. It's not a widescreen
Which is fine.
presentation.
It was filmed for a certain format back in the day.
Right? That's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this 4.5 buckets.
I'm going to go 3.5. I think we just reversed from the previous movie.
Yeah.
I don't have a personal connection to it like you do, but I thought this was well done.
So, this will go into my what else did we do, because I basically just watched this for all week and then watched the commentary. So it was like 6 hours of watching Salem's Lot.
Yeah.
So that's really all I did. I didn't
and you
really
caught
have
all
time
this
for much
before.
else.
So this was a big primer before you went into Nosferatu.
Oh yeah. So what about? So you already kind of gave your what else we did. What else did we do?
I have become obsessed with this America's Top 40 on iHeartRadio.
Yeah.
So, and it's funny because, like I said, one episode it's just one rolling into the next, and they'll do a 70s and then they do an 80s, and so sometimes if you don't catch it right at the top, you don't always know what year it is that they're covering, and so it's fun for me to guess what year it is.
Okay.
But yeah, it's songs that you were literally hearing drop on the chart for the first time that we know inside and out. Songs that I couldn't even begin to tell you who sang them or who they were back in the day. But I will tell you, there was one episode, probably 75, and it's a weird mix because you have like Partridge Family and the Osmonds, up against Creedence Clearwater. So it's a weird mix as other genres are starting to mix in. But I was exposed to this Osmond song called Crazy Horses. That is spectacular. It is. I have never, and it's so funny because I'm listening to the song and it's so un-Osmond like. And I'm like, holy crap. So I immediately found it on YouTube, played it a couple more times, shared it with my friends going, you have to hear this song. This is a banger. This is out there and I've never even heard of it. Shared it on social media. But now my YouTube feed just wants to give me Donny Osmond talking about crazy horses, or Ozzy Osbourne talking about crazy horses, or people who review songs for a living or albums, and we're going to listen to this song for the first time, and it's just like, I'm assuming as an audiophile you are familiar with
With this
song.
song? No, is it like a rock song?
It is. There's a lot of Moody Blues references that where people are comparing it to Moody Blues. It is unlike, it is crazy. Not to be too punny, since it's called Crazy Horses. But I highly recommend that you hang up with me and go listen to this song, because it will blow your mind. And it's fantastic.
I'll have to check it out then. Yeah.
I will send you the YouTube link as soon as we get off here. But I was tickled that in this day and age, I'm still being exposed to stuff that I had no clue existed.
Right.
So thank you to Casey Kasem. Still out there, keeping his feet on the ground, and keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
Oh, Casey.
I know. And it's amazing whether you're listening to a 72 or a 2002. The guy sounds the same.
Yeah, well, not only listening to him on the radio, but he had that half-hour show. I think it was just top 10, the half-hour show.
Yeah,
where he might play a snippet of the video, but he'd go through the top 10 of that particular week.
Well, the nice thing about these is that there's no commercial breaks, so they would always tease you, like coming up, someone, a listener in Idaho wants to know what was the number one song, what song stayed at number one the longest, or whatever, and you come right back out of the break, they play one song and then answer the question. So it's not like I'm waiting 20 minutes, sitting by the radio to find out whether or not what this answer is. No, it's a fantastic stroll down memory lane, and yet here I am still getting schooled. Stuff I didn't even know existed.
So what else are we doing?
Well, I guess we're staying in the Stephen King world.
Yeah. I didn't put that together, but yes, we are. Yes, we are.
I'm assuming this also takes place in Maine.
Somewhere in Maine, I would assume so. Yes.
We are talking Cujo, but that's on the back end.
That's on the back end.
Yeah, we thought we'd be really funny and pair it up with this new animated. I guess this is a really big book series. Dogman. It
is. Dave Pilkey is the author.
Yep.
So he did Captain Underpants.
He also did. There's a dragon. I can't remember the name of it. My kids have a series of those early books.
Oh, really?
Like a purple dragon.
I was unaware of that one.
I have to look it up now. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not him, but I think it is, because I think he illustrates and writes these books. But Dogman looks very unsettling.
Oh, here we go. It's just called, the series is just called Dragon. That's the name of the character.
Oh, okay. I was spot on then.
Yep.
Yeah. But yes, apparently a cop dies and they sew the dog's head onto him.
Onto the cop's body. Yes.
I'm very unsettled already. I'm going to have to find if I can get one of my kids to come with me, I will feel much better, because as we all know, a middle-aged single male sitting in a kid's movie all by
yucking
himself
it up like Robert De Niro.
Yucking it up. I don't know. Although I do, in the trailer, when the police officer is trying to instruct the dog and he keeps wadding up a piece of paper and throwing it away, and the dog keeps bringing it back to him.
Yep.
I did laugh out loud twice in the theater in the trailer alone. So maybe I will laugh.
Well,
Cujo, I don't think I will be laughing.
No, there's no.
Although there are scenes where it's a guy in a suit. And Cujo.
Yes,
so
some
those
of
are the scenes. Those are the scenes I'll be looking for. And that's Dee Wallace, right? That's the mom from E.T.
Yeah,
am I correct?
Just a year off of E.T. Danny Pintero, who later went on to star in Who's the Boss.
I was thinking the dance show, but I don't. That's Danny.
Danny Terrio. He's
not the same guy.
He would have been like 30 years old by this point.
He was playing a 12-year-old kid.
Yeah.
So there you go. We're gonna go Dogman and Cujo.
Cujo.
Yeah. I did have I sent you the graphic for our Instagram page, and I had to do a deep dive on some vampire jokes. And so my headline, I will share this with you and you tell me if it's funny. What vampire makes the best pancakes?
I don't know. What vampire makes the best pancakes?
Count Spatula. It's so stupid. And on that note, so that was fun. Thank you.
Yes, it was fun.
Yes.
Hopefully next time will be even funner.
Maybe. I don't know. We could just start covering Stephen King stuff.
It's good that we wait every once in a while, but just this time it just seems to be coming one after the other.
Yeah, this one almost wrote itself here. So
yeah. All right.
Okay. Well, until next week, thank you very much as always, and we'll be talking to you.
Yep. And Anthony, we hope we did you proud.
Yes. Thank you. Appreciate the listen and the communication.
Yes, thank you.
It is nice to know that there is somebody out there listening. Spread the word, my friend. Bye.
If you like what you just heard, be sure to follow TMI Confessionals of the Nerd Kind on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify, or whatever you listen to your podcasts on. Also, be sure to email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
You can also follow us on all of our socials. We're on Instagram, X, Facebook, Threads. Just go to tmiconfessionalspodcast.com. All of our links are there. And leave us a 5-star review. See you at the concession stand. Honey, I'm home.